On a full moon night atop a very tall building, a showdown is about to begin. Stardust shows up with a not-so-friendly look on her face and says his little games are over. Meanwhile, our protagonist just watches her from below, and then he claps his hands acknowledging that she did a great job this time. But the girl gets irritated and yells that she doesn't need acknowledgement from scum like him. Our hero then reveals that she always messed up his plans and that this would be the last time. Hearing this, the heroine is outraged. The protagonist then says he won't appear in front of her anymore, and he activates his teleportation, bidding Stardust farewell. However, she reacts in a strange way, and in the blink of an eye the girl dashes forward at high speed, trying to stop the man from escaping. Desperate, she reaches out her hand, trying to grab him, with a rather odd look on her face. Our protagonist is surprised by the young woman's reaction and wonders why she's acting like this. The scene then cuts to a few years in the past, with our guy sitting on the edge of a building. He seems deep in thought as he observes the city from above with a tired expression. Years earlier, our hero Kimda, in at 22 years old, thought about how the city looked just like Seal. But this peace was shattered by constant explosions that happened every day. Villains like workmen and other low-rank heroes were always slugging it out in the middle of the street. That's why this place was very different from the Seal he used to know in his old world, because it was a world where villains and heroes with superpowers were constantly at war. Turns out our protagonist was reincarnated into a comic book series called Stardust. The guy remembers the decision he made in this world with a mischievous grin. The person he would do anything for was the great heroine Stardust, so he decided to become a villain just to help one person shine. Then, using his powers, our guy simply vanishes from the top of the building in an instant. Someone on the communicator asks what he's doing, and our hero says he teleported. He then introduces himself as the villain Agostic and tells everyone to take a break. His partner Con questions why he's hunting villains for no apparent reason, because all of this was part of a plan called the Villain Hunt. Using what he knows from the original story, he would eliminate the villains before they got too strong. After all, he wasn't going to let these villains torment his favorite character again. His partner says the target is a total couch potato, so this was the perfect time to strike. Our protagonist then pulls out his gun and says that thankfully he gained an ability for this plan. That's because he had a few aces up his sleeve, and the first one was teleportation, and the second was telekinesis, which he uses to point a gun at the villain Rhino's head. Appearing from the shadows, our hero bids farewell to Mr. Rhino, who looks terrified. After taking out the villain, our guy grabs some papers that were lying on the couch. He sees that they're blueprints for a department store and that a terrorist attack was about to happen. This guy was Rhino, who in the original story becomes an S-rank villain and goes on a rampage. But thanks to our protagonist, the future Psycho was stopped before he could even start. Con warns that the police and heroes will arrive in 5 minutes and he should bounce. She also says that if he's grateful, he should bring back some ice cream to the base. Before leaving, our guy takes the opportunity to leave a little souvenir at the scene. As sirens wail in the background, he starts preparing for his show. With an evil smile, he says that this must be a gift for her. Sometime later, an investigator confirms that the guy taken down was indeed the villain Rhino, and it seems the culprit was the same one who finished off the villain in Zodiac and then fled. The police investigate the crime scene while the detective continues to analyze the facts. Arriving on the scene, Stardust sees a message on the window and gets completely furious. Through gritted teeth, the heroine says that crazy guy will be caught one way or another. The news spreads and people start to question if he isn't a hero for hunting villains. Meanwhile, at his base, our protagonist freaks out, saying this is a huge problem. He screams in desperation because he didn't want this vigilante reputation at all. His partner enters the room and complains that it is making too much noise and grumbling, and this is Hanseo, a user of super intelligence who helps our hero with his plans. Our guy then explains that people are thanking him and his image is only getting better, and public opinion of Stardust will only get worse if things continue like this. So to prevent that, he needs to make it crystal clear to the public that he's a really bad guy. Our protagonist calls for Con and tells her to get ready for what comes next. He then points forward with determination. The guy announces that the official debut of the villain Agostic is about to begin. For this, our hero grabs a backpack full of explosives and gets ready for the show. His first target is the 111th floor of a giant building with an incredible view. While the people inside are enjoying the moment, a countdown begins. Suddenly the screens go dark and our protagonist appears, introducing himself as Agostic. This causes mass panic and everyone starts screaming, desperately not understanding. He then reveals that he was the one responsible for eliminating the villains Rhino and in Zodiac. But putting the chat aside, he points to the tower where the broadcast is happening. At home, a couple watches everything on TV in disbelief at what they're seeing live. And it doesn't stop there, as our hero also points to the observatory of another building. The people in the second location realize they are also in the villain's sights. With a smile on his face, he reveals that he has installed bombs in both locations for the people. Upon hearing this, all the hostages panic and chaos completely takes over. The doors won't open and people start screaming that they don't want to kick the bucket. The guy watching everything on TV is so shocked he ends up spitting out his drink. With the cameras broadcasting live, he says the game is about to begin because if there's a villain there has to be a hero, so he challenges the A-rank Heroine of Seoul Stardust to try and stop him, and as expected the girl is already flying at high speed towards the attack site. Meanwhile our protagonist adjusts his cloak and pants preparing for the meeting. Lastly he puts on his mask, and even though he looks confident on the outside he's super nervous. The fan is finally going to meet Stardust in person, who arrives with a destructive impact. The Heroine lands in front of him and our guy realizes she's very different from the comics. He gets totally flustered and speechless at the beauty of the young woman in front of him, and there she was, the A-rank Heroine Stardust in all her glory and power. Our hero gets all goofy thinking that the character he loves so much actually exists. The two then face off on top of the building, ready for what seems to be an epic confrontation. Our protagonist maintains his mysterious and calm villain persona, waiting for her next move. The scene then cuts to a dark alley where two guys are in the middle of a fight. One of them walks away, leaving our guy behind on the ground, all beaten up with no way out. Our protagonist got beaten up badly and was left in the alley unable to even get up. In the dark place our guy wonders where he is and just wants to go home, but upon hearing a noise he hides behind a wall, curious about it. He is surprised to see a bright light coming from the street and peeks for a better look, and there it is, a giant hologram of the Heroine Stardust. Our hero can't believe what he's seeing and thinks this must all be a lie. With his face full of scratches he finally understands that he has ended up in another world, because the famous comic book Heroine was right there in front of him on a big screen. Initially he thought that if he became a hero he could stay by her side forever, but since he knew the story by heart he knew the tragic fate that awaited the young woman, because in the end she would end up alone and defeated in the midst of a destroyed world. So he realized that even if he became a hero he wouldn't be able to truly protect her. To truly save her there was only one path to follow in this world. Back in the present, Stardust glares at him angrily and calls him by the name Agostic. Our protagonist just watches her in silence, maintaining his villainous pose. Then he activates a detonator aiming at the girl for whom he transformed. Stardust glares at him with hatred and warns that if he takes another step she will go all out. But our guy presses another detonator and says that all of this is so she can have a path of flowers. The scene then flashes back to the past with our hero at 15 years old watching TV and eating popcorn. He sees a villain on screen letting out a crazy laugh in front of a hero who was already done for. The pink-haired guy laughs so hard he even goes upside down to show how nuts he is. Our guy then thinks that this Jackie fella is a psycho and is overacting his part, but in the present our protagonist makes the same crazy face and lets out an identical laugh. And of course Stardust is not at all pleased with these shenanigans. His laughter echoes through the city and appears on the building's big screen for everyone to see the show. He then points to the people trapped inside and continues with his villainous act. Minutes earlier he was adjusting his top hat and preparing for the big meeting with the heroine. He warns that his partner is recording everything, so she better not try any funny business. The heroine then freezes in place because she can't attack and tarnish her image in front of everyone. Our guy asks what she thought of the stage he created just for her to shine on. Stardust calls him crazy and tells him to release the innocents so she can take him down. He agrees immediately and says he will let everyone go since the heroine of justice asked so nicely. Then with a snap of his fingers he unlocks the elevators so the people can escape. The elevator lights turn on, showing that everything is clear for the escape, but Stardust is suspicious and knows it won't be that easy. When the people run to the elevator our hero appears and tells them to wait. Then he says it wouldn't be fun if it were easy, and the button that lit up has a catch, because the moment they press the button the bomb in the other building will go up in smoke. Furthermore he gives them a deadline of 30 minutes to decide what to do, and he even taunts them saying that the people in the other building are just strangers to them. This whole situation is broadcast live on the big screens for the entire city to watch. With this the heroine becomes furious and calls our protagonist a scumbag with hatred. He then announces that today everyone will witness the peak of human selfishness, because this is the grand game of the villain Agostic, which is just beginning. With that, panic sets in and the hostages begin to argue about what to do. The argument gets heated and they wonder if they should press the button to save themselves. In the midst of the confusion a guy complains and wonders where the heroine is to help. Meanwhile Stardust feels powerless because she can't act and save the hostages. With her eyes shining the heroine asks if he has fun playing with people's lives. He then says that's not what entertains him and that he actually respects Stardust a lot. The girl gets flustered and our hero takes a picture of her, saying he just wanted to give a compliment. But he continues saying that seeing her in this situation unable to do anything at all, that's what really entertains him. So he offers her a chance to join the game and his feet begin to glow. Our protagonist teleports in the blink of an eye, leaving the heroine confused. He explains that she must convince the hostages not to press the button button to save themselves. If no one does anything for 30 minutes, the bombs won't explode. Stardust asks how she can trust him, and our hero replies that it's better than nothing. He then prepares to start another part of his big show. Pointing at the heroine, he gets ready to begin the countdown. The cameras turn to her as our guy shouts 3, 2, and 1 into the microphone. And with one final command, the live broadcast begins for the whole city to watch. Stardust's image appears on the big screens, and the hostages scream her name in total desperation. She then takes a deep breath and prepares for her speech that will be broadcast. Introducing herself as Stardust, she begins to talk about the belief that everyone holds in their hearts. Our protagonist watches from afar and thinks that this was exactly what he wanted to see, because he would be the villain who caused the terror while she just needed to shine for the people. Stardust then tells everyone to show the villain that they are truly strong. Hearing this, a family hugs each other and continues to watch the speech with great attention. The heroine finishes by saying that their faith is unshakable and they will never surrender to evil. Our guy then gives a satisfied smirk, happy with the outcome of his plan. The time keeps ticking and the timer shows only 5 seconds until the end. People start to pray and hug each other, hoping everything will turn out okay in the end. With 2 seconds left, the heroine watches the timer with a very serious expression on her face. Finally, the time runs out and the timer hits 0, leaving everyone in shock and speechless. A mother hugs her son tightly, expecting the worst to happen at any moment. Meanwhile, a couple says goodbye with one last hug, not knowing what comes next. But suddenly our hero shouts that the real show is about to begin right now. Stardust is in shock, seeing that the bombs didn't explode and no one pressed the button. Our protagonist also can't believe it and freaks out, saying there was supposed to be a selfish person there. The heroine then says that people are not as selfish as he thinks they are, because even if not everyone is good, she still believes in the goodness of humanity. Egostic points at her and says it was the heroine who united everyone with her speech, and says that this is a lot of fun and congratulates her on her achievement. But Stardust is in no mood to talk and charges at him, promising that she will win. Our hero then starts teleporting to escape the scene, but seems a bit surprised. He's impressed by the look of justice in the heroine's eyes as she comes at him. She then tries to hit him with a punch, but he had already vanished. Meanwhile, the hostages celebrate, relieved to have survived this terror. The people on the street also cheer and shout Stardust's name, who saved the day once again. The heroine looks at her hand and seems to reflect on everything that just happened. Far away, our protagonist reappears in a hallway with a teleport, and it seems the escape wasn't so smooth as he ends up face planting on the floor. Splattered on the ground, our hero complains that he's going to pass on at any moment because his teleportation ability has a fatal side effect. The farther he goes, the more wrecked he gets. Seoan finds him on the floor and complains about the top hat he's wearing. She says the hat is tacky and the guy asks for a measly glass of water. Then she tells him to get it himself and leaves him petrified on the floor without any help. Meanwhile, Stardust flies through the city and sees on the big screens that there were no victims. The heroine is furious that he played with people's hearts and swears she will catch him. Back at the base, Seoan gives our hero water as he continues to lie on the floor. The scene now shifts to the Korean Hero Association building, where a meeting is taking place. Headlines about Egostic's attack and his abilities are shown to everyone there. Then a report on the villain is presented with his information and estimated whereabouts. The association's president, Park Jun-ho, starts the meeting to discuss the details of the case, but he seems annoyed and tells them to skip the part showing the hostages on the floor. An agent then begins to explain that the bombs were planted using teleportation, and the analysis revealed that the explosives were very powerful and custom-made. The president gets ticked off when he realizes the villain himself made those bombs. Next, the agent is asked how the live broadcast was hacked. He says Egostic must have an accomplice with incredible technical skills, but on top of that, the agent says there is more important information about him. It seems our protagonist is completely obsessed with the heroine Stardust because he left a message for her at the crime scene and mentioned her during the attack, and on top of that, he talked about her during the bomb incident. Finally, the president turns to the girl and asks how the encounter with the villain was. Stardust then falls silent for a moment, thinking about how to answer. Then she describes him as a psycho who loves to play mind games with people. 2 days later, our protagonist wakes up feeling terrible from the effects of teleportation. He then gets up and goes to the fridge to get some juice to cool off, but Seoyeon catches him in the act, and he ends up spitting out the drink from the shock of her scolding. Our guy tries to play it cool, but hands Seoyeon with her super intelligence isn't fooled. He then thinks that in the original story she was a famous genius hacker, and that in the future she would become a powerful and feared S-rank villain. The girl complains that the base is hers, but he reminds her that he pays all the bills. She then ignores him and tells him to stop drinking straight from the bottle because it's gross. Our protagonist just gives a little smile at the scolding from his partner. Then he pats her on the head and agrees not to do it again. Suddenly she remembers something important and drags him to another room. The two then enter a control room filled with high-tech equipment. Our hero asks about Lee Soo, been a fan of his who could become an ally. The girl then points to the screen and says says she found the girl, but on TV and news report shows that followers of Egostic are carrying out a terrorist attack. Our guy gets upset and asks if the girl he's looking for has become a hostage. It turns out that his so-called fan is wearing the same outfit as our hero and leading the attack. And the news reports that there are already 3 victims and 300 hostages at the scene. Our protagonist then calls for CO1 and asks what their principle is. With a punch to the table, he reminds her that rule number 1 is to never harm civilians. With a dark look, he says he needs to clean up those guys' mess. His partner then nods in agreement and prepares to help with the mission. And as for the crazy fan, he decides he will handle the situation when he gets there. The scene then cuts to the attack site with Stardust observing the building in flames. With a serious expression, the heroine prepares to spring into action at any moment. She asks for permission to attack and receives an order to take them all down. The girl gets confused, thinking that the real Egostic is behind all this. In the past, terrorism was something exclusive to villains with superpowers, but Egostic uses explosives and hijacks broadcasts to pressure everyone. The heroine is furious that a copycat crime happened the day after his attack. Then she receives a warning that our hero has appeared and is broadcasting everything on YouTube. The girl grabs her phone and sees our protagonist's live stream with the chat blowing up. People are confused and demand the platform take down the broadcast immediately. Meanwhile, at the attack site, our hero appears and the fake villains get scared. One of the crazy followers is shocked to see the real Egostic in front of him, but in reality they are fans and celebrate that their master has appeared in person. The guys think he's gonna join in on the killing and get super excited about the idea, except our protagonist is all sore from the teleportation and curses them out for the mess. The fan is confused and doesn't understand why Lord Egostic is mad at them. Then out of nowhere, the guy starts laughing like a maniac, thinking it's all a joke, but our hero receives the location of the detonator from his partner and confirms it. Suddenly, the crazy guy who was laughing gets a solid punch right in the face, and our protagonist emerges from the shadows with a sinister aura ready to crash the party. The crazy fan refuses to believe it and says he's a cop in disguise. Calmly, our hero walks among the fake followers who are frozen in place. One of them points a gun at our guy and questions him, completely confused, but with telekinesis our protagonist disarms all the guys at once. Then with a smile he says he has never had such ignorant followers as them. Outside the building, the sound of gunshots echoes through the street, startling everyone, and on the live stream the chat goes wild, wondering if he's a hero or a villain. Meanwhile, Stardust receives the order to attack and save the hostages from everyone. The camera focuses on the leader of the copycats, who is completely terrified by the situation. CO1 reports that the girl was forced to participate and was not part of the attack. Our hero then approaches the young woman who is on the floor crying and asking for help. He then extends his hand and grabs the mask she was wearing, and in a swift movement he rips the mask from the scared girl's face. The young woman's name is Lee Soo Bin, and she starts crying, admitting she was wrong. The hostages watch the scene and see our guy teaching the crazy fan a lesson. With a smile, our hero points the gun at the girl and tells her to stop crying. The young woman then falls silent immediately, completely paralyzed with fear. Our protagonist turns to the hostages and prepares for the next act. He bows and apologizes for the copycat crime that happened because of him. Furthermore, he promises that he will compensate all the hostages and the victims' families, but he worries about how he will pay everyone and dumps the responsibility on CO1. His partner tells him to grab the girl and get out of there as fast as possible. Our hero then picks up Lee Soo Bin in his arms and the young woman lets out a startled scream, but the teleportation takes its toll and he feels his whole body ache again. Suddenly he reappears in the sky and comes face to face with an explosion in the building, and he is surprised to see that Stardust was right there in front of him. The heroine also can't believe what she's seeing and is shocked by his appearance. The scene then cuts to Yonsei University some time after all the chaos, and in a nearby coffee shop we see the heroine Stardust in her civilian form Shin Haru. She's watching the news and the topic is the villain Egostic, who is blowing up. Sitting alone, the girl scrolls through her phone to see what people are saying. The comments are confusing and they even nicknamed our hero Mangostic. This makes Shin Haru very annoyed because she doesn't understand his plans. The girl then remembers the confrontation she had with him on top of the building, where a huge explosion happened right in front of her during the showdown. At that moment our protagonist seemed completely shocked by the situation, but Stardust didn't care and shouted that she was going to get that scumbag once and for all. Then she charged at him with everything she had to end the nonsense. However, our hero's legs give out and he simply collapses on the ground. The heroine is surprised because she didn't expect the villain to be so weak. Even so, she continues her attack and prepares a punch with all her strength. Back in the present, Haru sighs tiredly and her friend approaches the table. Her friend Kim Chae-hyun comes over and asks if everything is okay with her homework, but Haru says she's fine and was just thinking about something else at the moment. After all, no one there knows that the student Shen Haru is the heroine Stardust because she uses a perception filter to hide her identity from everyone, but lately she has a worry that she can't get out of her head and it's egoistic. The girl then writes his name and thinks that all humans are selfish, but she wonders why he saved the hostages if he's such a bad guy. Her friend then teases her saying she looks really down again. To cheer her up, Chae-hyun suggests they get some mango shaved ice. Hearing this, Haru gets super excited because she absolutely loves that dessert. However, our hero's crazy laugh returns to haunt her thoughts. With that, the girl grits her teeth in anger just remembering that psycho. Chae-hyun is shocked that not even the mango could solve the problem. Haru then grips her pen and says the dessert is hers anyway. With fire in her eyes, she swears she will catch a Gostic and find out who he is. Her friend finds the scene cute and takes the opportunity to feed her a spoonful. Far away in Seoul, our hero's fan arrives at a very ordinary house. Upon entering, she finds a second door that leads to a secret place, and when the door opens, it reveals the path to their Hediot. As a super modern elevator appears ready for her to use, Lee Soo-bin then enters a combination of numbers to descend to the base. The elevator descends dozens of floors underground at high speed. Arriving at the Ego, base CO1, complains about the name he gave the place, but the protagonist says her house is his and vice versa just to annoy the young woman. Our hero then strikes a very dramatic pose to show that he's suffering. The girl tells him to stop the drama because she knows he'll be fine soon. He complains that teleporting with someone doubled the pain and left him broken. It's worth remembering that Hanseo-un has a super intelligence ability, so she doesn't even care about his drama and goes back to reading her book quietly. Meanwhile, our guy thinks that this recovery capsule is the best thing ever. He then gives a thumbs up to Seo-un, who ignores him and continues reading her book. Suddenly, the capsule door opens and Lee Soo-bin appears in front of him. The girl says she went grocery shopping because the fridge was pretty empty. Our hero freaks out and asks if she isn't wanted by the police right now. She explains that she just covered her face with her bangs and everything went smoothly, and it seems the groceries cheered up Seo-un, who runs to get some ice cream. Our guy then wonders if the young woman was hired just to be a delivery girl, and asks why she told him to bring this terrorist. Seo-un then reveals that she wanted to ask Lee Soo-bin for a little help. The protagonist gets upset because he doesn't want a terrorist in his secret base, but she explains that the girl didn't want to participate and was forced to go there. Then confirms that the young woman's name is Lee Soo-bin, leaving her surprised. With a popsicle in her hand, the white-haired woman says she knows everything about the girl's life. She then reveals that Soo-bin's parents were researchers for the Han-un group. The young woman is in shock and asks how she knew such a secret. Seo-un says she saw the girl's post on the deep web and asks if she wants revenge, because she remembers that Soo-bin wanted to get revenge on the Han-un group for what they did. Then our hero's partner reveals that she is also looking for the leaders of this group, and that her revenge will only be complete when she finishes them all off once and for all. Watching everything from a distance, our guy finally understands what's happening. He realizes that the young woman was also a victim of the Han-un group just like Seo-un. Our guy remembers that he used revenge to recruit his partner and prevent her from becoming a villain. He doesn't remember Soo-bin from the original story and thinks she's just an extra. Suddenly, the two start hugging and crying together, leaving the protagonist confused. The girls shout each other's names and our hero is left completely clueless. He wonders if he's the only one not following their sentimental moment, and after staring at the two of them, he decides it's better to just stay quiet for now. The scene then cuts to a fancy restaurant at night, and someone is crying at a table. It seems the crying was from a young woman who was being harassed at the next table. A guy with purple hair complains that her crying is ruining his appetite. Suddenly, the restaurant door opens and someone unexpected appears. A police officer arrives and says he received a complaint and the guy needs to go to the station, but the psycho doesn't cooperate, so the officer warns that he'll have to arrest him by force. Except at the moment of the arrest, the guy simply disappears into red particles. In the blink of an eye, he reappears on the roof of the building, leaving the officer in shock. The guard is completely confused as he didn't expect the guy to have superpowers. With a cowardly kick, he throws the officer from the top without any mercy. And this is the A-rank villain Himhak Cheol, who thinks has the big shot just for being a teleporter. In the future, a heroine asks Stardust if finishing her off would change the world. It was our protagonist partner Hanseo-un, also known as the villain White Witch. Someone then calls out for our protagonist. It was Seo-un who was mad at our hero for drinking all the orange juice. Lee Soo-bin apologizes for drinking it all while our guy gets an earful from his partner in the background. background. Then the girl hugs Seo-eun off from behind and says that everything is okay. Our protagonist gets jealous and thinks that hug was supposed to be his alone. He then asks if the girl finally gave up pretending to be a boy, making her very angry, and then starts laughing at her face. In the control room, he watches the two girls working attentively on the computers, and this is Han Seo-eun, a user of super intelligence and a very important person, because she was the only survivor of a project involving illegal experiments on children, until one day an unexpected side effect occurred in one of the children there. With that, a massive energy explosion happened and everyone ended up passing on, but the only one who survived was Seo-eun, who was left on the ground all injured. After that, she fled the place with her body covered in wounds and hid in a basement. The girl lived in hiding for many years alone in her high-tech hideout, until one day our protagonist used his teleportation to find her by surprise. Startled, the girl fell out of her chair. She then gets up and our hero asks if she doesn't want revenge against those guys. The girl gets defensive and points a fork at him, as if it were a deadly weapon. Our protagonist extends his hand and says he didn't come there to hurt her. With a smile on his face, he reveals that he was actually there to save her from everything, because in the original story she becomes an S-rank villain and passes on in the end. Back in the present, he thinks that he will guide the girl to the right path, no matter the cost. Noticing that he was staring at her, she asks what is looking at and says he doesn't understand anything. Our hero then remembers that Subin lost her parents and went to college on her own. Her specialty is computer engineering, and she will help with the team's hacks. He was suspicious of her but realized that the girl is a heck of a good cook and is a nice person. Seo-eun then shows a small spider-shaped device and says it's ready. Our hero asks why a location sensor, and she asks if he forgot his main job. Then she points to a big screen and shows the next target on the villain list. Our guy is surprised to learn that the villain Hack Cheol is a teleporter. He grumbles about the pain he feels when teleporting, but the girls tell him to get to work. The scene then cuts to the villain's hideout, which is a very ordinary house from the outside. On the roof, our protagonist asks his partner if they can start the mission yet. She explains that he just needs to shoot the tracker along with the bullet from the gun. Our hero asks how that's possible, and she says the tracker is faster. He still complains, asking if it wouldn't be better to just grab the guy on the street, and his partner gets annoyed. The girl gets so frustrated with his slowness that she chugs a bottle of water on the spot. Suddenly, Lee Soo-bin starts cheering for him with a blushing and excited face. Seo-eun joins in the cheering and also shouts for Agostic to go all out on the mission. With a smile, our protagonist thanks them for their support and prepares for the invasion. He then teleports inside the house and comes face to face with the villain getting out of the shower. The villain is completely shocked to see someone suddenly invade his house. Without a second thought, our hero shoots with his two guns to finish the guy off. The target teleports and dodges the bullet, but the tracker ends up sticking to him. Our protagonist then asks his partner if the plan worked in the end. Seo-eun confirms it and asks Lee Soo-bin to pass on the villain's location immediately. With the information in hand, our guy teleports to the location they indicated, except he appears in the middle of the street and the people are shocked to recognize Agostic. Our hero realizes this wasn't part of the plan and now has in a tight spot. To make matters worse, a guy starts recording everything and the live stream blows up on the internet. The scene then cuts to Yanho University in a crowded classroom, and there we see Stardust in her civilian form, Shen Haru, studying with her classmates. Suddenly, she receives a message on her communicator about Agostic being downtown. The heroine jumps up from her chair in shock and shouts in disbelief. She then apologizes to the class and runs out of the room for the mission. Her friend watches her leave with a very confused look on her face. Stardust flies at high speed and wonders what Agostic is up to this time. Meanwhile, our hero gets the villain's location and finds him at the intersection. The target realizes he was hit by something and stops in the middle of the street to check. Just then, the traffic light turns red and the cars start to stop. Without caring about the people, our guy charges full speed at the villain. Suddenly, Seo-eun screams our hero's name, desperate about the situation, and an out-of-control truck appears at high speed heading towards the two of them. Our protagonist is in shock as he realizes the danger coming his way. The scene then cuts to the past on the Han Bridge at night, and someone calls for him, Hack Cheol. He was a con artist who got caught and was hanging upside down screaming he would pay the debt, but the group's boss, with a cigarette in his mouth, says he doesn't need the money anymore. With a cold look, the guy approaches and burns the rope holding the man. Hack Cheol panics and starts screaming, begging for his life just one more time. But it was too late and the rope snaps, causing him to fall straight into the dark river water. Tied up and sinking, he thinks this whole situation is simply horrible, and with his last moments of air, he swears he will curse all those scumbags. Suddenly, a purple energy emerges from the bottom of the river and he teleports to the bridge. The psycho who threw him in the water and his goons are confused to see him reappear. The guys are shocked, not understanding how he managed to get out of that situation. Hack Cheol then looks at his hands and starts to give a strange and creepy smile. The boss gets scared and tells his goons to go all out and finish the guy, but a red ore explodes and the villain realizes he now has incredible power. With an even evil smile he says that now no one in this world can stop him. With his new powers, the villain attacks the guys who tried to finish him off on the bridge. He screams like a maniac knowing he is unstoppable at this moment. The scene then returns to the present with our hero about to be hit by the truck, but the vehicle brakes sharply and stops right in front of the villain, who is left confused. It turns out our protagonist teleported into the truck bed and saved himself. Hack Chio gets ticked off seeing that our guy managed to escape his deadly plan. He tries to teleport away but realizes his power isn't working right. The villain then stumbles and falls to the ground with no strength to continue fighting. Lying on the asphalt, he thinks that Egostic really does hunt other villains for fun. Our hero then begins to calm the civilians, saying he won't hurt them, and then turns to the A-rank teleporter villain and tells them to go to heck already. Hack Chio is shocked to realize that the guy was just hunting villains all along. From the top of a building, our protagonist shouts that trash go in the trash and villains share the same fate. He then teleports in front of the target and says he's going to take out more trash today. Suddenly the villain grabs a girl who was on the street and complains about still hearing Egostic's voice, and then throws her to the ground. But before she hits the ground, our hero uses his powers and catches her at the last second. He asks if the girl is okay, and she replies yes, all blushing from the situation. Meanwhile, Hack Chio is all broken and bleeding, unable to even stand, and wonders why of all people this had to happen to him. Just then the villain finally faints on the ground, and the crowd watches everything around them. And so the powerful A-rank villain with teleportation powers was utterly defeated. Our protagonist approaches and points the gun at the guy, saying he confessed his crime. The target grumbles that our hero is also a villain, but he says has not that bad. He then shouts to the crowd, warning that the guy stole billions and finished off 4 people. Upon hearing this, the people get outraged and start shouting for this man to be destroyed at once. Hack Chio gets angry and asks what the difference is between him and our protagonist anyway. Our guy then thinks that in the future this guy becomes S-rank and torments Stardust a lot. With a cold look, he says the two of them are not the same and that the villain is going to pass on, and then he ends it. Our hero is then surprised by the reaction of the people who were watching everything, because instead of screaming in fear, the crowd starts to applaud him. He wonders why they aren't scared since a guy was just taken down there. So our guy thinks he can't get used to the people of this world. With that, he just adjusts his top hat and prepares for the next act of the show. Our protagonist takes a bow for the audience, which continues to cheer for him. With a smile, he points the gun at the crowd and asks if they aren't afraid of a villain, and the guys get a little scared. Suddenly he hears his name and is completely shocked to recognize the voice. And here comes Stardust flying at full speed, and he realizes he drew too much attention. The heroine then lands with a powerful impact right in front of our guy. He blushes and thinks it's cute the way she talks like a heroine, even though she's a college student. Our hero finds the scene cute while the young woman asks what the heck he did there. He then explains that he just eliminated an A-rank villain who was terrorizing the city. The girl gets furious and he says he was just judging him right there and that he has the right to judge an A-rank villain. Stardust then questions if has a hero, but our guy says has a villain. Just then he realizes this is the perfect chance to praise the heroine in front of everyone. He then starts acting and praises her justice, saying he will withdraw for today. The people start to question Stardust's delay and how she was unable to capture the teleporter and begin to defend Egostic's actions. Our hero gets confused by the reaction and his partner tells him to stop the show and come back. But he continues his act and says he will commit more crimes for her to try and stop him. With that, our protagonist teleports and vanishes in the blink of an eye. The crowd starts to leave while Stardust stands still thinking about what happened. The scene shows the defeated villain on the ground with the people around him dispersing. A close-up shows the guy's body lying in the middle of the square, unable to move anymore. Stardust then gets a very serious look on her face, reflecting on Egostic's actions. Back at the base, our hero reappears, but the teleportation takes its toll once again. He then collapses hard on the floor and Seo-eun screams desperately for help. His partner explains that it's a side effect while Soo-bin is shocked by the scene. The two then grab our guy's hands to help him up from the floor, and they drag our hero, who is all broken, across the base floor. Our protagonist's phone was blowing up. On the internet, people are creating polls and already prefer Mangostic over Stardust. On a very tall building, the heroine seems to be thinking about everything that happened earlier. She then sees on her phone the news that the villain Kim Hack Chio was eliminated by Egostic. With a sad look, the girl reflects on our hero's actions and his motivations. Sitting on the edge of the building, she observes the city and feels confused by this whole situation. And while thinking about all this, the heroine remembers a rainy night in a dark alley. At 17 years old, the young Shinha-ru cried desperately for her mother and father. A man then holds up a wallet and says they should have handed over what he asked for. The thug then points a gun at the girl and tells her to blame her parents for all of this. With the gun to her head, the young woman is paralyzed with fear but with a look full of rage. The criminal then pauses for a moment and lights a cigarette, seemingly thinking about what to do. With a cruel smile, he says she's a lucky girl to still be alive in the end. He then throws the cigarette on the ground and decides to leave, leaving the girl behind in the alley. The man turns and walks away, leaving the young woman alone with all her sorrow. Filled with hatred and frustration, the girl punches the ground in the middle of the rain. She then laments not having had enough power to protect her family at that moment. Embracing her parents, she swears she will find that scumbag and get her revenge at any cost. And so the young woman was left alone in a hostile and melancholic place. But suddenly a light as bright as a star appears in the rainy night sky, and a huge beam of energy descends from the heavens towards the girl, changing her destiny. With tears in her eyes, the girl remembers that it was at that moment that everything in her life changed. The mysterious light then strikes the alley with immense force, illuminating all the darkness. Right after the flash, the alley becomes silent again, as if nothing had happened there. And so the young woman is reborn with her blonde hair and incredible power, becoming a heroine. The scene then returns to the present in the hallway of the secret base with the Ego Stream logo. Lying in bed, our protagonist wakes up with a headache from the effects of teleportation. His partner celebrates that he finally woke up, and our hero calls her name confused. In a cute scene, Seoan hands him a phone and tells him to read while eating something. On the device, he sees a forum where people are listing all the deeds of the villain Agostic. The list begins by showing that he took down the A-rank villain Rhino and the S-rank villain in Zodiac, and also created a whole show at the observatory for the Koreans without a single casualty, in addition to stopping a terrorist attack by his fans and even paying compensation to the hostages. Lastly, the post mentions that he caught the teleporter villain, who was super hard to find. Our guy then asks how Stardust is doing, and his partner shows him the comments on the post. With a mocking look on her face, she says the answer about the heroine is right there on the phone. In the comments, people say Agostic is better and question what Stardust has ever done. Other heroes like Shadow Walker and Icicle have saved hundreds of people on their own. His partner then confirms that this is what most people think about the situation. And to make matters worse, Lee Soo Bin shows that he already has an official fan club called the Mango Squad. Our guy then freaks out and yells that the people are crazy for creating a fan club for a villain. With that, he gets up and says he can't let things continue this way. He then invites Seoana and Soo Bin to the next attack, and the two are shocked because our hero promises that he will put Stardust back on top no matter what. Far away, the heroine in her civilian form enjoys a delicious mango frap, but suddenly her expression changes completely upon hearing a conversation at the next table. Outside the coffee shop, the day seems very peaceful and full of cherry blossoms, except the people start criticizing Stardust for always being late to missions. Hearing that, the girl is completely shaken and doesn't know how to react at the moment, because people prefer to see Agostic taking down villains rather than heroes going easy on them. She then wonders why everyone hates her when she's only trying to do her best. Her friend asks why Haru is hitting herself, and she finally snaps out of her trance. Chae Hyun sits with her and tells the young woman to relax because it's a beautiful day outside. The friend then says she didn't even notice the cherry blossoms and shows something funny on her phone. She shows the Mango Squad fan club and confesses that she's starting to like Agostic. Haru gets completely ticked off at the thought that even her best friend has become a fan of the villain. Suddenly, Chae Hyun gets startled and warns that Agostic is live right now. At that moment, the heroine receives an order to go to the base because she has been challenged again. She jumps up and tells her friend she has to leave due to an emergency. With a determined look, Haru runs out of the coffee shop without any further explanation. She swears that this time she will catch Agostic while he is on a cliff for the live stream. In a hologram, our hero greets the people of Korea and introduces himself as the villain Agostic. The stream's chat is blowing up, and our guy wonders if this has turned into a fan event. He then shows the fan club and says he heard rumors that has a good guy hero, but with an evil smile, our protagonist warns that everyone is completely mistaken. Then he throws his phone, which glows with a purple energy, and prepares for the next act. He shows a group of hostages tied to the train tracks to prove as a villain. With a smile on his face, our hero points to the side and announces that the train is coming. A high-speed train appears, and our guy asks if Stardust is watching. The live chat calls him obsessed with the heroine, and he says the rules are very simple because she needs to choose between letting the train continue and taking out 5, or diverting it and taking out just 1. He also warns that if she tries to get the people off the tracks, the train will derail and it'll be all over. Then with a thumbs up, our protagonist tells her to pull the lever and make her choice. At that moment, Stardust arrives yelling at the man, but he just says she finally came. The heroine looks at the hostages and thinks that if she tries to save them, the people on the train will pay because the passengers inside would also have no chance of escaping alive. With that, the young woman becomes desperate and wonders how she will manage to save everyone. Meanwhile, our hero announces that the Penikill Express is coming in hot. The chap then debates whether she should or should not pull the lever to save the majority of the people, but our guy knows that the Stardust he knows would never make such a choice. Seeing the train approaching, the heroine runs at full speed towards the tracks to take action. Our hero then turns off the microphone and tells Soo Bin not to worry because the train won't hit her. Then he goes back to acting and screams desperately that Stardust is going to kick the bucket this way. With a brutal impact, the heroine slams into the train to try and stop it with her own body. Using all her strength, the girl begins to push the train back with incredible determination. Through gritted teeth, she thinks she just needs to hold on to save everyone. The train wheels spark on the tracks as the heroine continues to push with all her might. Suddenly, she feels the train's speed increase, and the situation becomes even more tense. Our protagonist realizes that something is very wrong, and that this wasn't part of the plan. Turns out Soo Bin passed out from nervousness at the controls and the train accidentally accelerated. Realizing this, our guy panics because he did not expect this to happen. The scene cuts to the past with our guy smiling and thinking his plan was perfect. Our protagonist was carrying a civilian on his shoulders to the attack site. He then carefully places the girl on the train tracks to begin the trap. While tying her up, our hero complains that setting up a daytime terrorist attack is a pain. Tying one last knot, he finalizes the preparations for his show. After everything is ready, our guy teleports to the top of a cliff to watch. From up there, he admires his work and feels a huge sense of pride in what he just prepared. He reflects that in the original story, the heroine gets stronger by being worn down by various villains, and if he eliminates the villains prematurely, she will end up losing the chance to grow. With a smile, he says that this is a special training ground he made just for her. Our protagonist then screams desperately to Stardust that this is a useless sacrifice. The live chat goes crazy and our hero thinks that this wasn't his intention, but with a smile on his face, he reveals that this was actually exactly what he wanted. Then a brutal impact shows the force of the collision between the heroine and the train. Our guy watches everything and thinks that she is still too weak to stop the train alone. However, he knows that her powers grow immensely in crisis situations like this. That's why he is sure she can stop something of this level without much trouble. The train wheels spark on the tracks with the heroine's absurd strength. A large explosion of energy occurs and she pushes the train with everything she has. Suddenly, our protagonist notices that the train is accelerating and is in shock. Turns out Soo Bin fainted at the controls and he desperately tries to wake her up. Our hero then panics because he did not expect something like this to happen. He thinks that if anyone on the tracks passes on his plan will go very wrong, because that would be a path of despair for Stardust and not one of flowers. The train continues to advance and the heroine seems to be reaching her absolute limit. Even so, the girl grits her teeth and doesn't give up fighting with all her strength. The heroine uses her potential and manages to push the train with her arms. With a battle cry, she releases a golden energy and doesn't give up. The girl holds firm, holding back the train that seems to not stop at all. From a distance, our hero watches everything and begs for her to be able to stop it. The train continues to advance at full speed and the heroine appears to be at her limit. Our protagonist's eyes widen with fear of what might happen. Finally, the train stops, raising a cloud of dust and debris everywhere. With a smile, our guy celebrates that she succeeded and they avoided the worst. Through the camera, he wonders if Stardust is okay after that whole impact. He worries if she might have passed on and keeps looking at his phone screen. The heroine then appears panting and exhausted but on her feet and ready for more. Our protagonist freaks out with happiness and celebrates as if he were her biggest fan. He tries to hide his joy and pretends he was rooting against her the whole time. Our guy then realizes that she solved the dilemma in her own unique way. Meanwhile, the live chat is blowing up with people shipping the two and praising the heroine. With a smile, our hero says this was the reaction he wanted to see from the people. He then praises Stardust, saying that her power grows with the desire to save everyone. After using all her strength, the heroine is completely exhausted and out of energy, and with her body at its limit, the girl simply faints on the ground, unable to move. Our protagonist is completely shocked to see her collapse in front of him. He then teleports to her side to see if the young woman was okay after everything. Even unconscious, the girl mumbles our hero's name with her last bit of strength. She then coughs and tries to catch her breath, while he just watches her in silence. Our guy congratulates her and says the victory is hers because she surpassed herself in an incredible way. He says goodbye and informs her that other heroes are on their way to help her recover. With that, the heroine finally passes out for good and rests after the whole battle. From the top of the train, our protagonist ends the show and thanks everyone for watching. The broadcast ends and the people in the chat wonder what the vibe is between the two. Meanwhile, at the base, Seoeon freaks out and yells for the lazybones to wake up. She then scolds the two who are worn out after a single attack. To recover their energy, Seoeon prepares a nice feast for the whole team. Our guy and Soo Bin are surprised and ask if she made all that herself. He then thanks her with a pat on the head, which she seems to enjoy, but then his partner gives him a pinch on his stomach just for old time's sake. The girl then tells him to eat quickly before the noodles get all soft and gross. With that, everyone gives thanks and begins to eat together in a a rare moment of peace. Lee Soo-bin enjoys the delicious noodles with a look like she's on cloud 9. Everyone eats in silence, seeming very satisfied with the food she prepared. Even Seon, who is usually very serious, seems to be enjoying herself. After eating, his partner grabs the remote control to turn on the television. She then jumps on the sofa all excited to watch the news about the attack. With a smile, she says she wants to see how the media covered their great achievement. Our hero says his villain image should be solid and Stardust's should be at the top, but screams out of nowhere and our guy is left confused about what's happening because the TV news says that he and Stardust are dating, to everyone's shock. The news report then starts talking about the incident that happened the day before after the heroine stopped the train. 6-2. Next, the reporter draws attention to a photo of our guy next to the unconscious heroine. Meanwhile, the young woman in her civilian form sees the news report that suggests they look like a couple. Upon hearing this, the girl's hand crushes the can she was holding with so much anger. With that, our protagonist and the heroine scream at the same time that this whole story is a huge joke. On the news, a host comments on the most popular villain in Korea and the rising heroine. The reporter then shows a photo of the message Gostic left and asks what he sees. With a shout, he says that it wasn't just a phrase, but a gift for Stardust. Next, the guy shows the photo of our hero next to the heroine passed out on the ground. He then freaks out, saying that it can only be love and that he made her sleep peacefully. With that, the reporter asks what else it could be if the two weren't dating. Meanwhile, at the university, we see Shenha Ru in an empty and very thoughtful classroom. The girl wonders if everyone has gone crazy for believing these rumors with a villain. Looking at her phone, she thinks that would never happen and gets totally irritated with the situation. But upon seeing Egostic's photo on her phone, the heroine gets a very strange expression. She feels hatred and disgust, but at the same time an emotion she can't quite identify. In the midst of this confusion of feelings, Shenha's friend appears. Her friend approaches and says that her soul seems very tired because of college work. To cheer the young woman up, she shows an ice cream flyer and says that today they will heal. With that, her friend pulls her by the arm and tells her to trust her and that they will have fun. Back at our hero's secret base, the gang is getting ready for a day off, but Seon is throwing the biggest tantrum on the floor because she really wants to get out of there. Seeing the scene, our protagonist decides that they will all go out together to have some fun. Upon hearing this, the girl gets up immediately, completely surprised by the news she heard. With her arms up, she screams with happiness while Soo-bin gives a relieved smile. Our guy looks at the flyer and thinks that this wasn't in the plans, but it might not be a bad idea. Far away, the heroine also thinks about the ice cream festival with a little smile on her face. Arriving at the event location, we see that it's packed with people even though it's a weekday. Seon then asks why he's wearing black again and our hero says it's a manly color. The girl gives a very cute smile and doesn't seem to care much about his answer. Our protagonist is surprised to see that she's smiling and calling him big brother. He realizes that she's in a good mood and the young woman points to a rice ice cream very excitedly. Seon then runs ahead to get the ice cream, leaving the two behind. Lee Soo-bin comments that it was a good idea to go out because their partner is having a lot of fun. Our hero takes the opportunity to try some of the ice cream they got at the festival. The guy thinks the dessert is delicious while his partner celebrates in the background. With a smile, he then offers some to Lee Soo-bin to try as well. The girl gets all flushed and flustered by our protagonist's unexpected gesture. Seon tells her to try it already, but the young woman refuses, all embarrassed by the situation. With her heart racing, she thinks that would be an indirect kiss and gets even more nervous. Finally, mustering up the courage, the girl accepts and tries a bit of the ice cream he offered. She then says it's delicious and his partner doesn't seem shocked by her friend's reaction. Suddenly, Seon sees a mango ice cream and runs off, leaving the two behind. With a determined look, she charges forward to get her favorite ice cream. The girl then arrives at the counter and asks for a cone from the vendor who serves her. The vendor then says that their daughter is cute and our hero is left confused. Our guy awkwardly agrees and Soo-bin gets all flushed at the man's comment. Seon then starts to laugh and teases our protagonist about the age he seems to be. The guy says it's because of his height and our hero's partner gets irritated. Finally, he hands over the order with 1 cone and 2 cups for the group. Seon then says that he's the leader of the mango squad and needs to eat mango ice cream. The vendor gets all flustered and says it's nothing while our hero finds the attitude strange. Our protagonist then realizes that something is very wrong happening in that place. With pride, the vendor shows the apron he made himself with a drawing of Egostic. Our hero gets ticked off, but his partner gives a thumbs up, approving of the fan's attitude. Sitting on a bench, the three of them enjoy the ice cream in a moment of peace. With a thoughtful look, our protagonist continues to eat his dessert in silence. He then sees a dart game stall and says he used to be a master at it back in the day. Our guy then gets up and says he's going to show his skills to the two of them, but his partner asks if he isn't going to use telekinesis to cheat, and he gets embarrassed. At the event, the prize for 10 hits was a giant ice cream, and for 7 it was a teddy bear. Seoan then says she liked the teddy bear more than the giant ice cream. Our hero asks if first place can choose the prize, and the young woman confirms yes. With a smile, he tells his partner that he will get the prize for her no matter what. Our guy then prepares and pretends to be focused to use his telekinesis secretly. Our hero then asks the price but realizes that the person in front of him looks very familiar. With a surprised look, he finally realizes who was there at the festival, because it was none other than Kim Chae, Hyun Shinhara's university friend. The girl then says the prize is a 10-scoop ice cream and promises she will win it for her friend. His partner then questions why he stopped and isn't throwing the darts, but suddenly the heroine herself appears and the whole group is in shock at her presence. Everyone is completely frozen upon seeing Stardust right there in front of them. With a confident look, the heroine prepares to show her skills in the dart game, and so our hero and the heroine stand side by side ready for the competition to begin. Hara's friend pulls her through the festival and points to a rice ice cream stall. Chae Hyun tries the dessert and says that it's really good. With a smile, she then offers some of the ice cream for the heroine to try. The girl then takes the spoon and tries the dessert her friend offered. Haru is surprised and admits that the rice ice cream is truly delicious. Her friend is happy because she finally managed to make the heroine smile. Suddenly, the two girls seem surprised by something at the festival. Then Chae Hyun pulls her again and says she knows what her favorite flavor is. She then points to a stall and shouts that she found the mango ice cream. Upon hearing this, Hara's eyes sparkle with pure happiness and excitement, but suddenly her joy vanishes and a look of hatred takes over her face. It turns out the vendor was showing off his agnostic apron, and Chae Hyun thinks his outfit is cute. A while later, the two sit on a bench to eat the ice cream they bought. Her friend asks if she's having fun and Haru says yes with a smile. With her eyes closed, the heroine seems to be enjoying the moment of peace. Sitting on the bench, the heroine thinks that it has been a long time since she went out to relax. With her eyes closed, the girl enjoys the moment of peace with a smile. Her friend then points to a dart game and invites her to go there. The two get excited about the idea and the heroine thinks it looks very fun. With a smile on her face, the young woman agrees and says it's a great idea. Then the two get up and head towards the dart game stall. Arriving there, the young woman explains that the prize is a giant 10-scoop ice cream. Suddenly, the heroine's gaze focuses and she notices something very unexpected there, because she sees our hero with his partners and thinks they look like a family. Looking at the guy, she feels like she's seen that face somewhere before. Her friend then hands her a dart and tells the girl to get ready, and with perfect aim, the heroine hits the bullseye on the first try. Our hero is shocked and remembers that her powers are super strength and flight. But he realizes that the young woman's strength goes far beyond what he imagined, because to be more precise, the heroine's power is actually telekinesis. He then thinks that her physical power is simply impressive. Our guy remembers that in the future her strength becomes superhuman and transcends everything. In addition, her sixth sense also develops and she can feel when something is wrong. With that, the protagonist panics because she might realize that he is the villain agnostic, and if the heroine discovers his identity, they will all go to jail immediately. The last dart then hits the target with precision, and the girl gets the maximum score. Her friend celebrates enthusiastically, and the heroine says it was a piece of cake to hit all the targets. With that, the young woman hands the giant 10-scoop ice cream to the two as a prize. The employee then asks if our hero isn't going to play since he was just standing there watching. Awkwardly, he calls his partner to see his incredible dart skills. He then concentrates, but in reality he just wants to play quickly to get out of there fast. So without using telekinesis, he throws all 10 darts at the target at once, and with absurd precision all the balloons pop at the same time on the board. His partners are left with their mouths open, not understanding how he managed to do that. The heroine and her friend are also shocked by our guy's perfect aim. The employee then offers the teddy bear he won to his partner, but our hero tries to bounce out of there as fast as possible before things go south. Meanwhile, the heroine's friend tells her to go get the prize from the game, except the young woman trips and her giant ice cream starts to fly everywhere. The dessert flies in our guy's direction and he thinks if he gets hit it's over. With a panicked look, he yells that he needs to avoid being discovered at all costs. Then our protagonist throws himself on the ground in a very dramatic way to dodge. Seeing the scene, everyone runs to see if he's okay and calls him by name. The heroine's friend apologizes and our hero just wants her to leave him alone. Our guy gets up and says everything is fine because he just overreacted a bit. He gets ticked off seeing his partners mingling with the heroine's group. With a forced smile, he tries to call his team to finally get out of there, but something seems to be catching everyone's attention as they turn around shocked. Suddenly the sky turns red and explosion scares everyone at the festival. festival. From the middle of the smoke, a giant and terrifying creature appears to attack. The monster then introduces itself as the A-rank villain Crocodile Man and shouts for Stardust. At that, our hero hugs his two partners to protect them from the unexpected attack. He then wonders why this guy appeared now when he wasn't in the original story. Without a second thought, the heroine runs at full speed towards the danger to fight. Our guy worries because she doesn't have time to get the filter to hide her face, because he remembers that if her identity is revealed, the young woman's future will be a living hell. With a furious look, he swears he won't let this tragic fate happen to her. Then our protagonist activates his teleportation and vanishes with the girls from there in an instant. A large explosion of purple energy illuminates the spot where they were seconds ago. In the place where the group disappeared, only our hero's clothes fall to the ground. Suddenly he reappears as a Agostic and says he will prepare the ego package for his partner. Holding the bear, the girl says she needs broadcast support for the show. Meanwhile, the crocodile villain continues the chaos and threatens to destroy everything at the festival. But suddenly a mysterious voice greets everyone and catches the monster's attention, and a giant loudspeaker appears introducing itself as the true villain of that era. With an evil smile, our hero introduces himself as public enemy number 1 Agostic. From the top of a building, he chews out the gator for making a mess in his territory, and the creature is shocked. Meanwhile, the live chat goes crazy and people wonder if as a hero or a villain. Our protagonist then lets out a maniacal laugh and warns that the gator is done for. The scene then takes us to 3 years in the past at the Hero Association building. Inside a lecture hall, an instructor talks about an essential item for heroes. He then introduces the class to the machine known as the Perception Alteration Filter. The device basically distorts facial perception and prevents recognition of the user. However, the instructor warns that the filter doesn't work on those who already know the user's face. He also emphasizes the danger of having one's identity revealed, which could cost them their lives. In the audience, the young Shinha Ru listens attentively to every word the man says. Back in the present, the crocodile villain's attack continues to cause panic at the festival. Haru then realizes she's without her filter and despairs, not knowing what to do. With a clenched fist, the girl decides she can't just stand by and watch all of this. She wonders if she became a heroine just to run away in moments of danger like this. With that, the young woman gets up and her friend screams her name, completely scared by her action. But suddenly the crowd shouts Agostic's name and the heroine is in shock. A voice then announces itself as the true villain of the era, public enemy number 1. And there was our hero on stage chewing out the gator for invading his territory. Our MC thinks that a normal life is super important for a hero and remembers how much Stardust suffered in the original story. With that, he gets furious and yells at the gator for ruining a heroine's life. The villain then recognizes him and accuses him of being that guy who is romantically involved with Stardust. Our guy denies everything, but the monster doesn't want to talk and charges forward with an attack. The live chat mocks the gator, saying he's the heroine's number 1 fan as the creature advances. With a powerful leap, the crocodile villain flies towards the stage to get our hero. He then lands with a crash and the impact of his hand cracks the entire stage floor. Next, the monster releases a wave of golden energy to try and hit our guy, but the villain is confused to see that our protagonist simply vanished in front of him, and out of nowhere our hero reappears and hits him from behind, sending the monster flying. With the gator on the ground, our guy steps on his back and asks what is doing there. He then reveals that the villain didn't know he also had the power of teleportation. With that, our protagonist leaps away with his magic. The gator tells him to fight fair, but our hero says he's a villain and doesn't care about that. The chat gets confused and our guy realizes he needs to explain the situation to the people. Our hero then yells for the gator to wait, and the monster agrees to hear what he has to say. Then our protagonist asks why the creature attacked him out of nowhere for no apparent reason. The monster explains that his target was Stardust, but since our hero also likes her, they are enemies. At that, the live chat goes crazy with the gator's logic and starts shipping the two villains. The creature also remembers that it was our guy who threatened him first, and he is left speechless. And indeed, he had said that the gator was done for making a mess in his territory. Our protagonist tries to deny it, but it's too late and he gets all embarrassed by the situation. The people in the chat mock the gator and wonder how he managed to speak so clearly. With that, the villain gets ticked off and releases all his power with an aura of spikes on his back. The monster then concentrates a fireball in its mouth and prepares for a special attack. Our hero realizes that this is a secret technique and prepares for what comes next. The gator then fires a huge blast of fire that devastates everything in its path. The flame advances at full speed towards our protagonist, who observes the attack. The villain then asks if our guy was surprised, because if the hit landed it would be over, but our hero teleports and reappears right behind the creature without a scratch. With that, our hero uses his telekinesis and summons an arsenal of weapons for the gator. He then says goodbye to the creature and says they'll see each other on the other side. With a serious look, all the weapons fire at once and a giant explosion engulfs the monster. Our protagonist observes the smoke and wonders if he managed to finish off the villain, but the gator emerges from the smoke without a scratch and says that bullets don't work on him. Our guy pretends to be shocked and his mask even falls to the ground in surprise. He then reveals that he just needed to make the creature lower its guard for the plan to work. With that, our hero creates a sphere of purple energy on the ground for the next attack. The villain curses him, but our guy throws a small energy ball straight into his mouth. The small sphere explodes inside the monster and causes massive damage. The gator gets all electrocuted and starts screaming in pain from the unexpected attack. Our hero says that the villain's skin gave Stardust a tough time in the original story. With its body injured, the monster stumbles and seems unable to fight anymore. The live chat goes crazy and asks the association to make Egostic a hero. To finish the show, our protagonist makes it rain weapons on top of the gator's body. As the villain was done for, our hero lands on the ground feeling the effects of his power. The weapons he used in the attack begin to disappear one by one on the ground. Our guy then complains that he used too much power and can barely lift his phone. He sees in the chat that people think he went there just to finish off the villain, so our hero says he just didn't like the gator and didn't do anything for Stardust. But suddenly a golden light descends from the heavens with incredible speed, and with a powerful impact the heroine Stardust finally arrives at the scene of the showdown. She then faces our guy and asks if he was the one who finished off the monster. He just says yes, and that the guy was in the way so he took care of it. The heroine gets ticked off and with an unfriendly look she asks why. Our hero explains that the creature was screaming about them having an affair and it annoyed him. He then warns Stardust to never think about revealing her face in public again because the moment that happens her life will become a living hell for real. The heroine is completely shocked and speechless at our guy's warning. He then ends the live stream and announces that something big is happening next month. With that, our hero says goodbye and vanishes, but the heroine shouts for him to wait. The girl then stands there observing the scene with a very confused expression. Back at the base, our protagonist reappears, but the teleport goes wrong and he falls. All injured on the ground, the side effect of his power finally takes its toll. With a pained look, he seems very weak and almost passing out from exhaustion. His partners run to help and shout his name as he passes out on the floor. Far away, the heroine finds the mask that our guy dropped at the scene. Holding the object, she wonders how he knew her thoughts and who he is. In her room, the heroine seems very busy researching something on the computer at night. She sees the news about the Crocodile Man and how our hero was faster than everyone. Then the girl finds the official Egostic fan club and sees people treating him like a god. With that, Shinharu sighs tiredly as she can't stand seeing that guy's popularity anymore. Her look becomes serious and she continues her online search to understand what's going on. On a hero forum, she sees a complaint about how everyone only praises a villain. The post even has a gif of a dancing mango and the heroine is disgusted by the mockery. Lying on the bed, the young woman thinks that everyone likes Egostic except for her. At that, she remembers the cute guy from the ice cream festival with the mango apron, and she also recalls the villain's warning to never show her face in public again. The heroine then becomes thoughtful on the bed, and a doubt begins to arise in her mind. She wonders if maybe everyone was right and she was wrong about him. Meanwhile, at the base, our hero's partners watch him in the recovery capsule. Sion then blames Stardust for our guy being in that deplorable state, but inside the capsule, our protagonist seems very calm with a little smile on his face. Our hero wakes up and asks why the two of them have such sad faces in front of him. Suddenly, his partner jumps on him and hugs him, crying nonstop for a second. At the table, he explains that he was out for 3 days after using his powers to the limit. With that, Sion scolds him and tells him to take better care of himself from now on. Our guy is happy to see that she cares and thinks their friendship is working out. Lee Soo-bin then questions why he disappeared out of nowhere since everyone thought he was a hero. His partner agrees and says it's cool, but he only knows how to call himself a villain all the time. Eating calmly, he asks what the problem is with having helped Stardust in that situation. With a serious look, the girl replies that what he did could have been fatal for the heroine, because if a hero's identity is revealed, villains could hunt them down without a minute's rest. The young woman then gets confused and asks what that has to do with their group after all. He explains that their world lives in a great imbalance between good and evil, because most people with powers choose to become villains to have a much easier life, and currently Korea only has 3 A-rank heroes while villains are everywhere. Seo-won then asks if he became a dark hero, but he says he just wants what's best for Korea. Jealous, his partner asks if he isn't doing all this because he likes Stardust. Our guy gets all flustered and tells the girl to use nicer words to refer to the heroine. The mood at the table gets heavy and Lee Soo-bin seems very nervous with the beef between the two. To break the ice, Soo-bin reminds her partner of a conversation they had before. The girl then cheers up and calls our hero Appa, leaving him very surprised by her attitude. With a smile, she suggests they travel to the beach since summer is already coming. Seo-won then freaks out with happiness and celebrates the idea with jumps of joy, but our protagonist says that first they need to do one more attack to tarnish his image, because if Stardust had faced the gator alone, she would have suffered a lot in the fight. His partner gets suspicious and asks if they are really going to travel after this. With a smile, our hero makes a pinky promise to guarantee the trip will happen. The girl is super happy and seals the promise with him, all excited about the idea. Excited, she says she needs to clean the whole house for the trip they are going to take. Suddenly, our hero's partner reveals that she has dozens of ideas for the next attack. With that, the girl goes to a whiteboard and prepares to present all her plans. On the board, she draws the attacks they have made and says they were all on solid ground. With an evil smile, the girl then suggests that this time the attack should be on the water or in the sky. Upon hearing this, our hero concentrates and a great idea begins to form in his mind. Suddenly, a bolt of inspiration strikes his head and he decides what the next plan will be. Our guy then holds his hands and says he can see everything clearly now, and his big idea is a plane crashing into the sea to everyone's despair. The scene then cuts to a beach with a rough sea, showing the location of the future attack. With that, our hero and his partner begin to laugh maniacally at the brilliant plan. Sometime later, a plane takes off, flying peacefully through the skies on a sunny day. Inside the aircraft, the passengers seem very calm and enjoy the flight without any worries. But suddenly the cabin lights go out and a tense atmosphere takes over the place. A couple by the window comments that the view of the sky is beautiful and that it really feels like a trip. The plane continues its journey in the darkness, leaving all the passengers very confused. Suddenly the seat screens light up and the Ego Live begins to be broadcast to everyone. Then the broadcast announces the world's greatest quiz show that will take place in the skies for the people. A passenger then yells at the flight attendant, not understanding what is happening. With that, our hero announces that to make everything more fun, he has installed a bomb on the plane. The camera then focuses on the explosive that is ready to detonate at any moment and take everyone with it. In the cockpit, the pilot is completely shocked to see the villain's warning in front of him, and with that, panic sets in for good and the passengers begin to scream desperately for their lives. At his base, our protagonist announces with a smile that the game will finally begin. The scene cuts to the Korean Hero Association building on a very quiet day, but Stardust bursts into the room and desperately asks how much time has passed since the attack. One of the agents warns that even if she goes now, it might be too late to save anyone. The heroine slams the table in anger and yells that they need to go anyway. The president says he never told her not to try and complains that it's difficult to act during the day. With a smile on her face, the heroine prepares to leave on a mission with all her determination. But suddenly the hero Shadow Walker appears and greets the girl by her real name. The hero informs the president that he will only go to the airport because combat is too much for him. He then comforts her, saying that you can't save everyone, and she nods in agreement. With that, the two heroes disappear into a blue energy portal, leaving the president behind. But Shadow Walker complains about the sunlight and falls down the stairs because he's weak during the day. With a determined look, the girl flies at high speed to the site of the aerial attack. With the wind in her face, the heroine prepares for what lies ahead without hesitation. She lands with a thud on a helipad, ready to spring into action. But as she looks up at the sky, she is completely shocked by the scene she sees in front of her, because the plane is on fire and falling at high speed straight towards the city in a disaster. The scene then goes back to the past and shows a warehouse in Seoul a few years ago. Inside, a villain is giving a speech to several followers about his plans. He shouts with a smile on his face and says that soon all of Korea will be under his feet. And this psycho is the S-rank villain Thousand Needle, who lets out a very psychopathic laugh. But suddenly someone disagrees and a henchman asks who the intruder is in their midst. From the shadows, a mysterious figure then emerges and introduces himself as a hero. This is Shadow Walker, the Lord of the Night, in his debut as an A-rank hero. The villain then stands up and asks the rookie if he knows whose territory he has entered. One of the followers is confused and wonders how the guy managed to get in without being noticed. The hero then faces them all with a cold look and prepares for what is to come. Thousand Needle gets ticked off and yells that this territory is his as he prepares a punch. He then charges forward and launches a powerful attack in Shadow Walker's direction. But the hero doesn't even flinch and just watches the blow coming without showing any fear. The punch then causes an explosion of energy that illuminates the entire warehouse. But the villain is completely shocked by the result of his super powerful attack. The guy wonders where the hero went in the middle of all that smoke. Suddenly, a strange shadow emerges from the ground and grabs one of the henchmen's feet. With a scream of terror, the follower is pulled into the darkness, unable to escape. At that, several other henchmen are swallowed by the shadows and chaos breaks out in the warehouse. Thousand Needle realizes that the guy is no ordinary opponent and prepares to fight seriously. Meanwhile, the Lord of the Night moves through the shadows on the ceiling, waiting for the right moment. Then he comes down with everything and prepares a flying kick to catch the villain by surprise. With a brutal impact, the blow hits dead on, and the guy seems to have gotten the worst of it. But the man gives a smile and curses the hero for daring to attack him that way. But when he looks down, the villain is startled to see that he has fallen into a shadow trap. The hero then calls out to the guy who is trapped and can no longer move. With a look of terror, the villain faces the hero, who remembers the words he said before. With his eyes glowing, the Lord of the Night says that this territory is now all his. Then a giant shadow creature emerges and attacks the villain with absurd power, but outside of his domain the hero collapses exhausted and thinks he's going to kick the bucket. Back at the base, our hero watches everything and thanks the two heroes for their hard work. With an evil smile, he announces that now it's time to move on to the final quiz of the show. On the plane, the passengers are terrified to learn that the final game is about to begin. One of the hostages trembles in fear with his phone in his hand, not knowing what comes next. The scene then flashes back to 30 minutes earlier, with the passengers crying and screaming for help. On the screens, our protagonist appears and the Ego Live broadcast begins for everyone there. The passengers fall silent and watch the villain, not understanding the situation. Before starting, he explains the rules and tells everyone to turn on their phones for the game. One of the hostages then receives the instructions and sees that if one person gets everything right, the bomb won't explode. With that, our hero tells everyone to be quiet and warns that whoever makes a noise is done for. Then the first question appears on the screen asking, how many people fit in the Titanic's lifeboat? The timer starts a 1-minute countdown to everyone's despair. One of the passengers tries to cheat off the person next to her but gets caught in the act. Our guy then announces that the lady who looked to the side is eliminated from the game, and since she spoke loudly, the guy next to her is also eliminated, leaving everyone in shock. The broadcast chat goes crazy and people question who called Egostic a hero. The time then runs out and our hero reveals that the answer was 9 people with a pun. His partner doesn't like the joke while our guy is having fun with the whole situation. With that, the big screen shows all the passengers who were eliminated in the first round. Our protagonist then tells the people to take it seriously and prepare for the next one. The questions continue and the passengers become more and more desperate with the time. One of the hostages is relieved to see that she managed to get another answer right, but the tension rises and the people start to freak out under the pressure of the deadly game. The quiz progresses and in the end only a single person remains for the last question. Meanwhile, our hero sees that Stardust has finally managed to reach the plane. With a smile, he prepares for the finale and warns that all lives depend on the last guy, and the last survivor is Mr. Kim Deok Bae, who feels the weight of responsibility. Our protagonist then remembers that speaking loudly was against the rules and the guy despairs. He tries to argue that it was a mistake and that in the last round they could let it slide. But our guy says he's not in the mood and eliminates the last hostage from the game. With the last hostage out of the game, the plane explodes and all the passengers scream in terror. The aircraft then begins to fall at high speed on fire and heading straight for the city. At his base, our protagonist says the stage is set for the heroine to make her entrance. On the wing of the plane, Stardust prepares to try and save everyone from that deadly fall. The heroine is then completely shocked by the scale of the disaster that is happening. On the wing of the burning plane, the heroine observes the destruction, not knowing what to do. She then contacts the president and asks what the next step is, but he says he's busy writing a statement and can't help right now. To make matters worse, the nation's president calls, and she clenches her fist in anger. Feeling the weight of the situation, the heroine falls to her knees on the helipad. She then thinks that she barely managed to stop a train and that now she can do nothing. With a look of despair, the girl feels completely powerless and trapped. The scene then cuts to the past and we see the young Shinha Ru alone in the dark. Crying in the rain, she hugs her parents and swears she will get revenge on the culprit. Alone in the alley, the girl screams with all her might in total desperation. Back in the present, the heroine punches the ground with absurd force. With tears in her eyes, she thinks that nothing has changed and that she still can't save anyone. Suddenly, her communicator starts beeping, drawing her attention to a message. Then a familiar voice speaks to her and introduces himself as the villain Egostic. Meanwhile, at his base, our hero stretches and says it was easier than usual. His partner then calls our hero by name and he answers, not understanding why. The girl points to the big screen and says that Stardust is just standing there on the ground doing nothing. With that, our guy freaks out and screams, desperately asking what she is doing. Meanwhile, on the plane, the heroine listens to the mysterious voice on her communicator. Seeing the scene, our protagonist gets a serious look and decides he needs to act. He then yells for Seo-eun and asks her to connect to Stardust's device. The girl says it's possible, but our hero tells her to hurry because there is no time. The heroine is then surprised to hear Egostic's voice on her communicator. He then asks why she isn't saving the people since the plane is falling. The young woman yells that he was the one who caused everything, and our hero asks who else will save them. She says that if she touches the plane she will pass on, but he says she can do it. With a smile, he encourages her to fight and tells her to save those people because she can. Egostic then says that this is her way, and with that a sparkle appears in the heroine's eyes. Kneeling on the wing, the girl wonders what the heck that psycho is talking about. Our hero then appears and says that without Stardust he is just another ordinary villain. With a smile, he says that the heroine is what truly completes him. Upon hearing this, Stardust is completely shocked by his words. With that, she stands up with a new determination to face the challenge. The young woman thinks it might be a trick but decides to believe him just this once. Then with a clenched fist, the girl prepares to spring into action with everything she has. She positions herself on the ground ready for what needs to be done. With a powerful leap, the heroine launches herself towards the falling plane. Flying at high speed, she prepares for the impact with the aircraft. The girl thinks that if she doesn't act, she will live with the guilt forever, and she is not willing to carry that burden for the rest of her life. From a distance, our hero continues to encourage her and says that she can do it because he knows that this is the true nature of the great heroine Stardust. Then with a battle cry, she unleashes all her power to protect everyone. The scene then shows the last hostage from the quiz blaming himself for the plane crash. He remembers his family and despairs at what is happening. With tears in his eyes, the hostage regrets not having concentrated more on the game. He then begins to cry desperately, thinking he will never see his family again. Meanwhile, on the plane, a little girl cries in fear with all the chaos around her. But looking out the window, the young girl notices that something strange is happening outside. With her eyes full of tears, she notices that the plane's speed is decreasing. Down below in the control tower, the people scream and watch the air disaster in disbelief. The pilot then announces that an external force is guiding the plane to a safe landing, and that force is Stardust, who uses all her power to slow down the aircraft's fall. Through gritted teeth, the heroine pushes herself to the limit and says she just needs a little more. A flight attendant then asks Mr. Kim if he is okay after the whole scare. The man is completely stunned and speechless after everything that just happened. All the passengers remain seated as the plane finally lands safely. The flight attendant then helps the man out of the aircraft, which is completely destroyed on the outside. Stumbling on the runway, the man and the young woman slowly move away from the accident site. Completely confused, the man wonders what the heck just happened on that flight. The people who survived the disaster watch the heroine who saved them all. The man who was the last hostage in the quiz understands what really happened. With tears of joy, he realizes that the person who protected them was a heroine. Exhausted on the ground, Stardust catches her breath after having used all her power. With tears in her eyes, the heroine thinks of the villain and whispers Egostic's name. The next day, the heroine's fame explodes and newspapers all over the world are talking about her. A morning newspaper begins to report on the events of the previous day's terrorist attack. The reporter then informs that the villain Egostic brought down a plane, but everyone was saved, and the great savior of the day was none other than our heroine Stardust, who stopped the plane. At home, Shinharu watches the news, which says it was impossible to stop the plane with her powers. The girl then takes a sip of water, looking very tired after all the commotion. With that, she stretches and wipes away the sweat, still feeling the effects of the battle on her body. The heroine then walks through the house when suddenly her phone starts ringing on the table. She then answers the call, and on the other side, a very cheerful voice calls her dear. The girl falls silent for a moment and asks if what she heard is really true. On the other end of the line, the president of the association says she managed to get her a vacation at the beach. The young woman gets super excited and invites her friend for a run, saying she'll go tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, the heroine goes to the balcony and observes the city. With a very thoughtful look, the girl reflects on everything that happened with our hero. She then remembers Egostic's words of encouragement and falls silent with her thoughts. The heroine wonders why of all people it was a villain who believed in her. With that, the girl stops and begins to reflect on everything that happened on the balcony. She questions why he told her to save the plane if he knew she would be able to stop it. With a sigh, the young woman remembers his words and whispers Egostic's name. She thinks that he is full of mysteries, but that there is definitely an intention behind everything. Then with a determined look, the heroine decides to investigate all the villain's actions. Suddenly her phone rings and the name of the Hero Association appears on the screen. The girl answers the call on the balcony, not knowing what to expect from the call, and on the other end of the line, the association asks her to remeasure her powers. Far away, our hero's crew is super excited about the day off that has arrived. Seo-Anna appears with a floaty and yells that the big beach day has finally arrived. In her cute form, his partner calls him Big Brother, and our protagonist gets embarrassed. Our guy then thinks that this is the first real day off he has had in this world. With a smile on his face, he decides that he will make the most of this day with the girls, but when they hit the road, they run into a huge traffic jam and are in shock. Inside the car, the whole crew is melting, and our hero complains about the broken air conditioning. His partner suggests teleporting the car, but he says if he does that, everyone is a goner. Seo-Anna then freaks out and complains that they should have taken the train, but our guy says they couldn't. Just then she finds a strange briefcase and asks what it is because it doesn't look like vacation gear. Upon opening the briefcase, case, she is shocked to see a gun and a bunch of ammunition inside. Our protagonist then gives a thumbs up and says you never know what might happen on a trip. His partner gets ticked off and points the gun at him, while our hero tells her to calm down and talk. After a lot of trouble, they finally arrive at the beach, and the sea looks incredible. Seo-eun runs off all excited with her floaty, and our guy thinks she looks like a child. Sitting in a chair, our hero then opens a can of soda to cool off. Just then Lee Soo-bin approaches and offers him a drink, which he accepts with a smile. The two then sit in silence, and a slightly awkward atmosphere arises between them. The young woman then breaks the silence and says she is very grateful to him, leaving our guy confused. She then explains that it's for everything he has done for her from the beginning, and for always being kind. Our hero gets all flustered and says that he's the one who is grateful for her taking care of the house and cooking well. With a smile, the young woman says she is grateful to hear that from him, and the mood becomes very romantic. Our protagonist then swallows hard and feels that this atmosphere is very suspicious. He then freaks out and wonders if this is a death flag or a betrayal flag like in manga. With that, he even becomes suspicious of the soda can and wonders if it isn't a disguised explosive. The scene then cuts to the Korean Hero Association building on a very hectic day. Inside, the agents say it was impossible for her to stop the plane and that they measured everything wrong. Meanwhile, Stardust is in front of a measurement machine that shows nothing. One of the agents then says that the test wasn't wrong and that she overcame an impossible disaster. Just then, the platform where the heroine was standing begins to glow with a very strong golden energy. The agents who were watching everything are completely shocked, not understanding what is happening. The heroine then screams with all her might as the energy explodes from within her. With that, she unleashes an absurd power and her hair flies with the force of the explosion. The measurement machine can handle the strain and is completely destroyed by her power. A large explosion of golden energy then illuminates the entire room with its force. The agents are thrown back and are left with their mouths open at the power the heroine has awakened. And with all this power, the heroine realizes that she has finally become stronger than ever. With a smile, the young woman says she is grateful to hear that from him, and the mood becomes very romantic. Our protagonist then swallows hard and feels that this atmosphere is very suspicious. He then freaks out and wonders if this is a death flag or a betrayal flag like in manga. Sometime later in a hotel, the group finally relaxes in the pool after the whole trip. Meanwhile, Seo-eun floats peacefully on a floaty, observing the two from a distance. Our hero tries to break the ice and tells Soo-bin that he is counting on her help from now on, but suddenly his partner emerges from the water and asks if the two of them are going to flirt without her. With an angry face, she says that they went on a family trip and should play together. The girl then gets confused by our hero's silence, who is staring at her with a smile. Out of nowhere, our protagonist picks up his partner in his arms, and the young woman screams, not understanding what happened. He then throws her with all his might into the pool, and the girl flies through the air in a forced dive. After the dive, his partner emerges from the water with a smile, having fun with the situation, but she throws some seaweed at him and complains that water got up her nose because of the prank. Our guy then removes the seaweed from his face and thinks about how long it has been since he had a peaceful day. With that, he gets in the water, and the three of them start playing together, enjoying the day off. At night, the tranquility of the hotel is interrupted by the sound of a very loud engine approaching. Inside a truck, one of the guys asks what their target will be that night. One of the henchmen then replies that the target this time is the luxury hotel where the crew is staying. The leader of the group gives an evil smile and says that this time they are going to do some major damage. And that hotel is exactly the same one where our hero and his partners are staying. At the reception, the young woman asks for the reservation name, and our guy says it's under Seo-eun's name. The receptionist then hands over the room key, but our protagonist is surprised to see that there is only one. The guy stares at his friend with a suspicious look, and she says that at least it saves money. With it, that the group takes the elevator and goes up to the floor of the room they reserved. Arriving in the room, says there is a giant bed, and our guy realizes there is only one. The young woman says it's no problem, but our hero gets embarrassed because the three of them have never slept together. With his face sweating, our guy wonders if something strange is going to happen that night. But in the end, nothing happens, and the three of them sleep peacefully with Seo-eun snoring loudly. Suddenly, a voice from outside the room says he wants to test something. With the room all dark, he then hears a 3-second countdown. Suddenly, the room door is broken down by some armed guys yelling, "FBI, open up!" But our hero uses his telekinesis to quickly get rid of the invaders. With a wave of his hand, he throws the two guys far away without even touching them. Still sleepy, our guy yawns and wonders who those psychos are on the floor. Then carefully he peeks through the door to see what is happening outside. He sees several armed men taking the guests hostage in the hotel hallway. Our protagonist is shocked and can't believe that this is a real terrorist attack. Angry, he punches the wall and complains that both times he went on vacation things went wrong. He wonders if Shadow Walker shouldn't be there, since the attack is at night. But on his phone he sees the news that the hero was found passed out somewhere else. Seoin asks if it's an attack, and our hero confirms without even being surprised anymore. He then tells her to wake up Soo Bin and wait in the room while he handles everything. With that, our protagonist teleports to the parking lot to get his equipment. Seeing the situation, he realizes that there is no way to slip out quietly without stopping those guys. He then starts looking for his briefcase and finally finds what he needed for the show. Our hero grabs a spare mask and with a smile says he is going to see the faces of the men who ruined his trip. Back in the room, he prepares for the mission while his partners watch sitting on the bed. With a battle cry, he prepares to go out and crash the terrorists' party. All excited, he says goodbye, and Seoun comments that she has never seen him so pumped up before. Meanwhile, in the hotel lobby, the terrorists gather all the hostages on the floor. The leader of the group is the A-rank villain Monkey Spanner, who observes everything calmly. With his henchmen in position, the villain is satisfied and prepares for the next step. He then announces that he has hundreds of hostages and makes his demands to the government. The guy then starts yelling the account number for them to deposit the money. His followers stand ready while a hostage watches the scene terrified. Suddenly, the villain leader notices something strange and gets a suspicious look. Our hero then appears among the hostages and says that this attack is very boring. With his telekinesis, he prepares to summon his weapons and end the nonsense. And in the blink of an eye, he uses his powers, surprising the villains. Our guy points several guns at the guys' heads and prepares the final attack. With a punch, he sends all the terrorists flying at once. The sound of the fight echoes throughout the hotel, scaring everyone inside. Our hero then lands on the ground and the hostages scream in panic, not understanding anything. He then realizes that he spent months of stored telekinesis in a single attack. Suddenly, a flash of purple energy cuts through the air and one of the villains is thrown far away. The attack hits one of the henchmen dead on, who flies with the impact of the blow. With all the guys on the floor, our protagonist prepares to face the boss. He then makes fun of the villain and calls his terrorist attack pathetic. Hearing this, the boss gets ticked off and his eyes glow with a red of anger. Without a second thought, the villain pulls out a gun and shoots our guy at point at blank range, and the bullet hits our hero dead on, who stands motionless with the wound in his stomach. Night falls on the luxury hotel and the commotion inside seems to have come to an end. The villain leader looks shocked and wonders if it was just a single bullet, but our hero is sitting on a pile of henchmen and questions if this is all they have. Despite the confident pose, the sweat dripping down shows that he is not okay at all. He then thinks that the situation is terrible because he will bleed out if he tries to move. With that, the villain's instincts scream at him to just flee that place as fast as possible. He remembers that his plan was to attack quickly, but then he realizes that the guy is Egostic. The villain then freaks out and wonders if he was one of the targets Egostic wanted to eliminate. Our protagonist says the villain seems tense and so he will give him a chance to escape. The terrorist leader doesn't fall for it and asks what trick he is planning. Egostic says the trick is his plans and that his patience has run out because they ruined his vacation, but inside, our guy begs for him to flee because he is already dizzy trying to stay awake. The villain then thinks that this is his chance and that he can rise again if he gets stronger. With that, Monkey Spanner charges forward with an energy attack, ready to end everything at once. The scene then cuts to the hotel door and reveals that this guy will one day be the king of South Korea. On the ground, the villain refuses to die and punches the floor with absurd force, breaking everything. A strange aura then begins to emanate from the guy's body, who unleashes all his power. With that, a pillar of golden light rises to the heavens, and the fight seems like it's about to get serious. But suddenly Stardust appears in the middle of the light and yells for the villain to surrender at once. The heroine then looks around and sees all the henchmen of the monkey gang already on the floor. Next, the B-rank Heroine Icicle appears and is confused by the scene of everyone defeated. Shadow Walker also appears and complains that he barely published a fake news story and another attack already happened. The trio of heroes then turns and sees our guy sitting on the counter, not understanding anything. Our protagonist gets embarrassed and wonders why they are coming out of that particular place. Stardust looks at him suspiciously and asks who he is and if he was the one who defeated the terrorists. Our hero thinks that if he loses focus, it's over and that he needs to stall to be able to teleport. The hostages watch the scene and our guy prepares to give the biggest excuse of his life. With a straight face, he says he is an S-rank hero who operates in secret in Korea. Upon hearing this, the trio of heroes is completely shocked and doesn't believe that crazy story. Stardust then yells that the association has no data on this and demands to know who he really is. Our hero then questions the A-rank heroine if she doesn't understand understand what it means to act in secret, and he even turns to the hero's icicle of B rank and Shadow Walker of A rank. With a smile he says that he has been active since the generation before theirs, but the hostages shout his name and wonder what the heck Kim D-in is doing. Sitting on a pile of suitcases he says that when you meet a senior you should greet them. The heroine Stardust just stares at him in silence with a not-so-friendly expression. Our guy then says that since they don't understand, he will have to introduce himself personally. With his hand on his mask he tells everyone to listen carefully, because he is a great hero. Suddenly a little boy with a mango and apple shirt appears, being led away by his mother, and the shirt's print shows a delicious mango apple cut into cubes. Our protagonist then reveals that his secret hero name is Mango Apple. The hostages who were watching everything are completely speechless at the ridiculous name he made up. Icicle then contacts the association and confirms that there is no one with that name. She then turns to him and demands to know who he really is since his story is a lie. Our hero freaks out, says he even knows the president's old name to prove he is a veteran. The trio of heroes is completely confused and contacts the association to confirm the story. Our hero then thinks that the information from the original story was very useful to stall them, but Icicle says the association doesn't know him, and one of the hostages butts into the conversation. The guy yells that the masked man took out the villains, and that his identity doesn't matter. Our guy celebrates the help and the hostage continues saying that he raised the weapons and fired. Stardust then remembers Agostic's pose on TV and finds the scene very familiar. The hostage yells that it doesn't matter if he is Agostic, and that he felt much better with his attitude. With that, Icicle looks at him suspiciously and says he seems very suspicious. Our hero is almost at his limit and thinks he just needs a little more time. The two heroines then release their auras and decide to finish him off to discover his identity. Icicle then concentrates her power and prepares to launch an all-out ice attack, and with a swift movement she fires a blast of crystals in his direction. Seeing the attack coming, our guy grumbles and starts a countdown in his mind. Shadow Walker then emerges from the shadows ready to grab him from behind as he continues to count. With his hand on the wound he begs for one more second to finally escape from there. With a serious look the heroine begs for him not to move at all. She then charges forward with everything she has and launches a powerful punch to finish him off at once. Our protagonist panics and yells for his body to move from there now. With his hand on the wound our hero continues his countdown and begs for his body to hold on. The heroine then gets a serious look and begs for him not to move at all, but at the last second a purple light explodes and the heroine is surprised by what she sees. Icicle then realizes that he vanished and took the two girls with him. The heroes are in shock because our guy managed to escape right under their noses. The scene then cuts to a black car speeding down a dark and empty road. Inside the car our hero tells his partner to erase all their traces as quickly as possible. Upon seeing his condition the two girls panic and scream his name desperately. The wound in his stomach is very bad and he continues to lose a lot of blood. Lee Soo-bin suggests a hospital, but he says he doesn't have the strength to teleport to the base. With that our protagonist begins to lose consciousness and passes out for good on the seat. At the wheel Lee Soo-bin yells for Seo-un to get the first aid kit, but his partner is completely frozen in fear, not knowing what to do. Lee Soo-bin screams desperately for his partner to hurry up and get the kit at once. With that the girl finally snaps out of her trance and nods while crying in fear. With a determined look Lee Soo-bin says she will get them out of there first no matter what. She then floors it and the car simply disappears into the darkness of the night. Meanwhile at the hotel the police begin to help all the hostages who were trapped inside. Icicle complains that the villains don't give them a single day off even on their vacations. With that Shadow Walker says has gone to rest and the ice heroine thanks her partner for his help. She then turns to Stardust and says that her friend probably would have come anyway. Icicle calls for Stardust who seems to be very thoughtful about the whole situation. Far away the car continues at high speed down the dark and completely deserted road. A random driver yawns and thinks about chewing some gum so he doesn't end up falling asleep at the wheel. But suddenly he sees a car approaching very fast in the rearview mirror. The car passes him like a real rocket and the guy is left completely confused. He then wonders if the driver is a psycho seeing the absurd speed on the dashboard. And in the car Lee Soo-bin drives like a maniac while Seo-un tries to take care of our hero. Our hero passes out and even injured he still whispers the name of his alter ego. With that the heroine decides she is going to thoroughly investigate all the villains' past activities. Back in her room the young woman begins to research Agostic's attacks on the computer. She remembers that the plane attack had no victims and wonders what would have happened if he hadn't called. Then Shinharu remembers the words of encouragement he said to her during the plane attack. The girl is shocked because he was sure she would succeed and knew about her powers. She then tries to convince herself that it was all just a simple coincidence. But with a clenched fist the girl knows that the fact that she got stronger is undeniable. She then picks up a document and finds another very suspicious point about the villain's actions. The secret file talks about a villain who could have caused a large-scale disaster in the past. With that the heroine realizes that the person who stopped this disaster was our protagonist, protagonist. She then thinks that he is not a hero, but he is not a villain either, and that he is setting a grand stage. Then the girl swears that in the next attack, she will find out his identity no matter what. Meanwhile, at the base, Seo-eun seems very worried about something she sees on her phone. They wonder what the purpose of the attacks is and if Egostic was an S-rank hero in the past. Seo-eun reads the news and our guy ends up choking on his food from nervousness. With that, Lee Soo-bin tells her partner not to bother him because he is going through a difficult time, but the girl gets ticked off and asks if he is going to do another attack, even though he's all busted up. Our hero gets all sweaty and tries to explain himself to his furious partner. Facing the two girls, our protagonist remains silent and thinks about what to do. He then announces that he is going to take a break for about 3 months and the two celebrate. Our guy explains that he is going to disappear for a while so people's curiosity will die down, but with a serious look he thinks that during this time he needs to recruit a new member, because the only healer in the original story becomes a super strong villain in the future. 3 months pass and the story moves forward to an ordinary day in the city of Seoul. Shin-Haru answers a call about the villain Rockbottom, but the girl thought it was Egostic. With a look of disappointment, she just confirms that she got the message and hangs up. The heroine then flies at high speed through the skies to the site of the terrorist attack. Meanwhile, she wonders what Egostic has been up to these last 3 months. Far away at the Ego base, our hero's team watches everything live and in color. Seo-eun sees the heroine on the screen and tells everyone that she has finally arrived at the fight. Our guy and Eun are very relaxed on the couch eating popcorn and watching the show. On the screen they see the villain of the day, Rockbottom, an A-rank stone monster. The stone creature says she has arrived, but he is not who Stardust was expecting. With a single blow, the heroine simply disintegrates the stone villain effortlessly. The monster then returns to its form of an old man and disappears in a puff of smoke. Our protagonist celebrates enthusiastically because his plan to make Stardust stronger worked. With a tired look, his partner asks if this really makes him happy. Lee Soo-bin stares at him and suddenly freaks out, saying she can't stand seeing him in her fan club anymore. Our MC gets all embarrassed and denies everything, but Seo-eun reveals that he is the leader of the Stardust Brigade. With a mocking look, she says she is a hacker and that none of his secrets would be safe. Our hero tries to play it off, saying it's just a hobby, but the girl doesn't seem convinced. She then changes the subject and asks excitedly if the next plan is a terrorist attack. He says no, and his partner asks if they are going to take another villain off the list. But with a smile on his face, our protagonist reveals that they are going to recruit a new member. The scene then changes to a very simple neighborhood, and a couple comments that nothing has changed there. The guy says the place is the same as 20 years ago and bumps into a young woman passing by. He apologizes to the girl, who just says it's okay and continues on her way. In a hurry, the young woman keeps walking down the street holding her wallet tightly. Her green eyes seem very attentive to everything that is happening around her. As she climbs a flight of stairs, she notices some strange guys watching. They were 3 psychos sitting in the corner smoking and staring at the young woman with not so friendly faces. She then grits her teeth, seeming very annoyed by the presence of those men. Suddenly, a 13-year-old boy named Lee Chae-hyun runs up and calls her big sister. The young woman asks if he had fun, and Lee Chae-hyun confirms, all excited, but she notices a scrape on his knee and asks how that happened. The boy explains that he ended up falling on the way there, and she kneels down for a better look. She then says he needs to be more careful as a green light glows in her hand. Lee Chae-hyun is left with his mouth open, seeing the wound on his knee being healed, and with a touch the injury simply disappears as if it never existed. After healing her brother, the young woman adjusts her cap and seems very focused. She then pats him on the head and asks the boy to go home ahead of her, and even promises to bring him something tasty. This is Lee Ha-yeol, the future villain ex-saintess. The girl then turns and goes back home alone through the streets of the simple neighborhood. Arriving at the door, she enters all happy with the food and calls for her brother, but upon seeing the scene inside, her face freezes and she is in a total state of shock because the Reservoir Dogs gang has invaded the house and taken her brother hostage. One of the guys holds the boy and reminds her of the deal they had made before because they let her steal in their territory, but she couldn't hide anything. The gang leader then threatens her, saying he warned her he would finish her. Lee Ha-yeol trembles in fear but tells them to let her brother go and get out of there. The psycho laughs and tells her to take a good look at the situation she got herself into. He then pulls the boy's hair hard, making the boy scream in pain. The young woman tries to attack but is held back while the guy continues to hurt her brother. The leader then says that his sister forgot her place and so she will suffer. Another guy pulls out a knife and says he will have to teach her a lesson. Desperate, Lee Ha-yeol screams that she was wrong and begs them to stop, but the guy says it's too late and lunges at the boy with the knife. But before he can do anything, a bluish glow appears and paralyzes the psycho's hand. The thug is in shock, not understanding what just happened right in front of him. suddenly light weapons appear pointed at all the guys' heads. Taking the chance, Lee Hae-yeol runs through the thugs to save her brother. She then hugs the boy tightly, relieved that he is okay and safe, and from a distance someone watches the whole scene unfolding inside that house. And the observer was our hero, who reveals what was going to happen in the original story. Lee Hae-yeol still hugs her brother, not believing what just happened. She then stands up and gets in front of the boy upon seeing a figure at the door. Our protagonist then appears and says he came to take them both with him. The girl then gets defensive and asks if he is really the famous Egostic. Our MC denies it and says he is there to save them before the police show up to complicate things. Even so, the young woman refuses and says she would rather pass on than join him. But suddenly she is shocked to see a very unexpected scene happening there, because her brother Lee Chae-in runs towards the villain with a hypnotized look. The young man holds our hero's hand with admiration. The boy recognizes the outfit and yells that he is from the famous Mangostic squad. With that, our protagonist gets embarrassed to see that Chae-in was part of his crazy fan club. Sometime later, they all arrive at our protagonist's secret base, the Ego. Our MC then introduces the siblings as the new family members to the girls. Lee Hae-yeol introduces herself all awkwardly while her brother is super excited. Seo-eun then realizes that the group's new healer is actually a girl. The scene then ends with everyone drinking mango juice in the base's kitchen. Seo-eun, lying on the sofa, thinks that the newcomer reminds her a lot of herself in the beginning. Meanwhile, Lee Hae-yeol remains very suspicious and doesn't relax for a second. Suddenly our hero appears and starts drinking juice straight from the bottle. Seo-eun freaks out and scolds him, saying she already told him to stop that habit, but he explains that this is his juice, and the girl calms down, all embarrassed. To break the ice, Lee Soo-bin offers some fruit to little Lee Chae-in. The boy is overjoyed to see that the fruit is his favorite mango. His sister Lee Ha-yeol watches him with a worried look without saying a word. He then eats the fruit, all happy, not noticing the tension that is going on there. The young woman looks like she is about to say something but gives up and keeps quiet for now. Our protagonist then calls the girls and asks them to step out for a bit. Seo-eun makes a face, but our MC tells her to go to the main house and wait. With everyone alone, he turns to Lee Hae-yeol and prepares for a serious talk. He then gets straight to the point and accuses her of taking out the orphanage director. Upon hearing this, the girl is completely shocked as her secret has been revealed. He then reveals that he investigated her past and knows that the director abused them both. The girl is speechless and asks what his real purpose is with all this. Our hero then says he just wants them to have a happy and peaceful life from now on. Lee Hae-yeol remains in shock and our guy explains his grand plan better. He reveals that he has created a teleportation portal to a house where they can go to school. The young woman is still suspicious and yells, asking why he is doing this for them. With a memory of Seo-eun, he says he just wants to help because he once had a sibling. Our protagonist then gives a gentle smile to try and calm the girl's nerves. Little Lee Chae-in reveals that he has seen all his attacks and that he is a big fan. Our MC then asks her to try living with them for a while to see how things go. He also guarantees that it will be fun and that they are not as bad as she thinks. Seeing her brother's excitement, the girl seems to finally agree to the proposal. Our hero then guides the two down a dark and mysterious hallway of the base. They arrive at a technological door that opens with a very strong blue light, and inside a teleportation portal appears, and he tells the two to enter without fear. The siblings look at the portal while our hero goes through first to show the way. Lee Hae-yeol remains a bit suspicious of the whole strange situation happening, but her brother Lee Chae-in jumps into the portal all excited without a second thought. The girl then takes a deep breath and thinks that there is no turning back now, so she also jumps into the portal so as not to leave her little brother alone on the other side. Upon arriving on the other side, she finds herself in a huge and very luxurious house. The boy is already jumping on the sofa and our hero asks if she likes the place. He explains that this is their new house and that she can have the second floor, and also tells her not to worry about school because he is filthy rich. He then offers her some time to think and says she can leave whenever she wants. The girl remains silent and wonders if she can really trust all of this. She then remembers all the suffering she went through at the hands of that crazy director, but seeing her brother running happily around the house, she realizes that this might be the best chance. With her eyes full of tears, the young woman finally agrees to stay there with them. Our MC gives her a pat on the back and says they will get along great together. With a mischievous smile, our hero celebrates the success of his recruitment plan, but he feels like he is forgetting something very important at the moment. It turns out he has been gone for months and the fans already miss his attacks. This makes the heroine Stardust very annoyed and wondering what he has been up to. Far away in a laboratory, scientists observe a bizarre creature inside a tank. One of the researchers with a crazy smile says that what he is seeing is simply incredible. His partner then reveals that the Behemoth project needs to be completed for Dr. Kim So-woo, and when that happens, their plan is for the entire South Korea to finally fall. With that, the Han-un group will finally be able to dominate the whole world with its power, and with an army of followers, the guy yells that no one in the world can stop them anymore. The scene then cuts to the main house on a very sunny day with a peaceful peaceful vibe. Inside, someone is in the kitchen chopping some mushrooms to prepare lunch. Lee Hae-yeol says that Soo Bin could rest, but the young woman replies that she feels better helping out. With a smile on her face, the girl expresses her gratitude for all the care she is receiving from them. Lee Hae-yeol then stares at her in silence, seeming very thoughtful about the whole situation. She then remembers that the young woman is the famous victim of our hero's terrorist attack, Soo Bin. 4 months after the attack, a news report shows our hero compensating all the victims, and now the young woman lives a happy life, debunking all the rumors that she was harmed. Suddenly, our protagonist tells Seoan to be careful when walking so she doesn't get hurt. Suddenly, his partner trips and our hero catches her, revealing that his name is Kim Da-in. He then complains that she keeps sleeping in the basement, even after they move to a better place. Our protagonist gets super excited about the meat for breakfast, and Ha-yeol thinks about using her healing on him. With a determined look, the girl stares at her hands and thinks that now she can be useful to the group. With a clenched fist, she decides that she will protect our hero, no matter what. Lying in bed, our guy stares at the calendar and realizes the time has finally come. He then thinks that he needs to prepare for the black disaster that the Hanan group created. Suddenly, someone starts pounding on the door and yells that they finally found Mangostic's Hidiat. Seoan then jumps on his bed and yells that she's bored and wants to cause some terror. With a serious look, our guy agrees and his partner asks if it's for real this time. Our protagonist then gives a mischievous little smile and decides it's showtime. He then announces to the Ego Squad and tells all members to gather for the plan. With that, our hero gathers all the girls in the control room to explain the new mission. Lee Hae-yeol then awkwardly raises her hand and asks a very unexpected question. She asks why they are carrying out terrorist attacks, and everyone is left speechless. Our hero begins to give a philosophical explanation, but his partner cuts him off immediately. With an unfriendly look, she tells him to stop beating around the bush and get to the point. He then gets serious and explains to Ha-yeol that they are indeed the villains of the story. The girl is surprised by the answer but seems to understand what he meant by that. Then she herself explains that they need to act like villains but without hurting anyone. Seoana adds that the plan has to involve Stardust and help the heroine. Our protagonist gives a little smile and is annoyed that his partner bad-mouthed the heroine. With that, he draws a bridge on the board and says the concept of the attack is about the Seal Bridge, because a giant monster will appear and march straight to the north, wiping out everything, and if they take down the bridge, the monster, which has a weakness to water, is done for. His partner then asks where he gets this information, and he says it's a secret. She grumbles that the plan doesn't seem to be for Stardust, and our guy tells her not to curse. The girl gets all excited and asks if the concept is decided and what they have in surplus. With a smile, our hero says it isn't time but a lot of money in the bank. Sometime later, our hero finally returns and does a live stream that blows up with people freaking out in the chat. Our hero then floats above the Seal Bridge, filming himself for the live stream that just started. He greets everyone and introduces himself as the most influential villain in all of Korea. With a smile on his face, he announces that Agostic has finally returned for another show. He then reveals that there will be a bomb threat, and the chat teases that he will call Stardust. One of the drivers passing by panics upon realizing it's a terrorist attack. With that, traffic comes to a complete stop and chaos begins to set in on the bridge. With a detonator in his hand, our protagonist tells everyone to stay right where they are, and suddenly a giant explosion happens and isolates both sides of the bridge at once. Our hero says the guests for the game have already been chosen, and the chat is confused. He then reveals that the game participants are all the citizens watching the live stream. Our guy says the method is simple, just send your bank account to win 100,000 won, but if the number of people who accept the money exceeds 500,000 by 7 o'clock, he will blow up the bridge for good and the people trapped there will go with it. With that, he asks what the people's choice will be, the money or the bridge with the hostages, and so the people's choice game between 100,000 won and the bridge finally begins. Our hero also tells Stardust to take a break and the live chat goes wild. He then prepares to summon the giant monster that is part of his plan. With a smile, he thinks the heroine is relieved not to be dealing with a villain, but suddenly a bright light appears in the sky and leaves him completely surprised because Stardust arrives with a bang and ruins our protagonist's peace. Desperate, he throws the detonator up, trying to escape the situation. The girl glares at him and he greets her, saying it has been a while since they last saw each other, but Stardust continues to watch him in silence with a not-so-friendly look. Our hero tries to calm things down and calls her by her name again. With a furious look, the heroine prepares to end his nonsense. Through gritted teeth, the young woman gets even more irritated with his attitude. Our MC gets awkward and wonders what the heck he just did. Far away, a store manager goes to see if his employee is taking a smoke break. The guy shows his boss that Agostic is giving away 100,000 won on the live stream. The boss then reads the news and wonders if the psycho is really going to blow up the bridge. His employee explains that it's just an Agostic show and doubts anyone will fall for it. But with a smile, the guy reveals that he just won 100,000 won from the villain. Upon hearing this, the boss freaks out and tells the employee to stop the nonsense immediately. The young man then bows and apologizes, all scared by the scolding he received. Except in reality, the boss also took the cash and praises the employee's performance. He then says there won't be 500,000 people and invites the crew for dinner. Elsewhere, his son calls his mother and asks for her account number out of the blue. The mother finds it strange but still gives him the details without understanding why. Suddenly, she receives a notification of 100,000 won from the Ego Squad and is shocked. With that, the bridge begins to explode and chaos ensues to everyone's despair. Our hero then curls up and complains that he didn't know the day would be so cold. He continues to shiver and wonders why he is going through all this trouble. Suddenly, he sees Stardust staring at him and feels the air freeze with her gaze. Our guy then wonders why she is staring at him like that and if the bridge has some secret. With a furious look, the heroine shows that she did not like that prank at all, but our hero thinks it's for her own good because Stardust needs to get stronger, because in the original story the Black Disaster was what made everything much darker. He then decides to check the game's progress and grabs his phone to see the numbers, and with 450,000 people, our guy sees that there are still 3 hours left. With a purple aura, he gets annoyed because the people seem to be very desperate for cash. He then thinks he will win without even having to lift a single finger. Our hero then goes back to the live stream and pretends to be disappointed with the citizens. He then approaches a car and says the special guests have arrived. With that, he opens the car door and prepares for the next act of the show. Our guy then gets worried and hopes that things don't get weird. He then greets the hostage and asks the guy to introduce himself for the live stream. The man then introduces himself as Choi Young Jin without showing any nervousness. Our hero asks if he isn't scared and the guy just stares at him, and with a laugh the hostage shows that he is not at all worried about the situation. Our guy is shocked and wonders if the guy is laughing at this whole situation. With a smile, Choi Young Jin says that as long as the people don't take the money, they are safe. Our hero then apologizes for the people, but the chat doesn't seem to care much. Awkwardly, our protagonist asks if he has any last words before the end. The hostage then yells that he believes in Korea, and the people are moved by the speech. With a serious look, the heroine calls him by his name and asks what his game is. Tired, our hero runs across the bridge and hopes for a normal reaction this time, but upon reaching the next car, he comes face to face with a very unexpected scene, because the passengers in the car freak out and scream upon seeing the villain in front of them. The girls scream that he is handsome and say they are his biggest fans ever. Our hero is speechless and the fans ask if he is really going to finish them off. He then tries to end the interview, but the girls pull him closer to them. One of the fans asks for an autograph before he goes and our hero is confused. He then signs a tablet and the chat no longer knows who the victim is in this show. The fans thank him for the money and he freaks out, saying he will never interview anyone again. Our hero then calls for Seowon and tells her to turn on the screen for the spectacle. With that, several drones begin to fly over the bridge during the night. The drones' lights turn on and prepare for the big broadcast. Then a hologram of our hero appears and he announces that the promised hour has arrived. With a serious look, he announces that he will reveal the results of the grand game. With that, the big screen announces that the people's choice between 100,000 won and the bridge will begin. Our hero then reveals the results of the game and the number on the big screen starts to spin. The live chat goes crazy and a guy complains that if the bridge falls he won't get to work. With a smile, our guy announces the result and the countdown begins. The number surpasses 1,200,000 to the shock of everyone watching, and he reveals that more than 1 million people chose the money instead of the bridge. The hostages in the car can't believe it, while our hero congratulates the Korean people. He then says he will give one last gift to all the selfish souls of that night. With that, a giant explosion happens and the entire bridge begins to go up in smoke. Seeing the scene, Stardust grits her teeth in anger that he did that. Our hero then floats over the destruction and says goodbye to the live broadcast. In the chat, the people freak out and wonder if he really finished off everyone who was there. After the show, our guy looks exhausted and says he has reached his power limit. He then just wanted to see Stardust save the people, but a golden light emerges from the rubble, and the heroine appears with a bang carrying a car to save the hostages from the fall. With her golden power, the heroine manages to hold the car and save the hostages inside, but our hero realizes that she won't be able to save everyone and panics. Then, with a determined look, he prepares to use his power to help the heroine. He teleports towards her and a giant piece of the falling bridge. The two scream in terror, realizing that the impact would be fatal for both of them. Without a second thought, our guy pushes her with all his might to get her out of harm's way. With the push, Stardust manages to save herself and flies away from the bridge debris. Our protagonist then gives a sigh of relief upon seeing that everyone is finally safe. But suddenly his look becomes serious as he realizes he is not out of danger yet, and with his body at its limit, he ends up falling along with the bridge debris. Our hero then falls hard into the water, and the pieces of the bridge follow right behind him. With his last bit of strength, he creates a whirlpool to deflect the debris and protect himself, but after using all his power, he passes out for good, and his body begins to sink into the river. Far away at the base, the girls see everything and scream desperately upon seeing his condition, because our hero Kim Dae-in reappears on the floor all broken and without his mask. The two girls cry desperately and are completely in shock at our hero's condition. They then place him in the recovery capsule and beg for him to open his eyes soon. Far away, the heroine Shun Haru seems very thoughtful at her bedroom door. Inside the capsule, our protagonist remains unconscious and shows no signs of life. The girl then sighs and seems to be very shaken by everything that happened on the bridge. With a sad look, she closes her eyes and reflects on the situation. But suddenly the young woman wipes away her tears and a new determination appears in her eyes. With that, the heroine Stardust flies through the city skies on a full moon night. In her office, she begins to investigate all the attacks of the villain Agostic. The heroine then grabs a newspaper and reviews all the incidents he has caused so far. She then analyzes the dating rumors and the attacks at the observatory and the festival. The young woman then remembers his warning to never reveal her face in public again, and also recalls that if he hadn't pushed her, she wouldn't have been able to act. The heroine then thinks that he was sure she would succeed, as if he already knew everything, because he encouraged her, saying that she could do it and that she should save those people. With a smile, the heroine thinks that he was the one who put everyone in danger there, and after all this time she wonders if he is really a villain or a bad person. But because of a strange emotion, she could say a single word. With that, the young woman remembers what happened and how he looked at her at that moment. The heroine then flies with all her might to save a car that was falling from the destroyed bridge. With her hand outstretched, she begs for her powers to be able to reach the vehicle, and through gritted teeth the girl uses all her strength to try and save the hostages. Her hand then touches the car and a bluish energy begins to envelop it completely. With that, the heroine realizes that the speed of the fall has finally started to decrease. Flying upside down, she manages to hold the car and avoid the disaster. Meanwhile, our hero also uses his power to help slow down the fall. The heroine then lands with the hostages safely and faces the destroyed bridge. The entire structure of the bridge ends up falling into the water amidst a cloud of smoke. With a determined look, the heroine prepares for what comes next. Back at the office, she finally understands that Agostic is very different. On the balcony of a building, the president of the association asks why she is alone. Suddenly, the A-rank heroine Icicle appears and calls the girl my sweet Shin Haru. The young woman then greets her by the name of Ciola and thanks her for coming. The two then hug and Icicle says of course she would come because they are friends. With a smile on her face, Haru seems very happy with the presence of her great friend. They then make a toast with some cans to enjoy the moment together. Icicle takes a sip of her drink and seems to be very relaxed at that meeting. Observing the city, the young woman says it's nice to spend a quiet evening with Haru, but suddenly she notices something and her look becomes serious and very suspicious. The heroine then asks why Haru continues to work outside of office hours, and if it's because of Agostic. Her friend tells her to forget about the guy because even the president is happy with the drop in crime. With a serious look, the young woman prepares to say something very important to her friend. With that, Haru reveals that maybe Agostic is not such a bad person after all, and Icicle is shocked by this. Far away at the base, Lee Hae-yul walks down a dark hallway towards a room. Carefully she opens the door but notices that Ewan I is sleeping on the floor. The young woman uses a blanket to cover her colleague and protect her from the cold. After that, Hae-yul continues on her way into the house. She enters a room to see what is happening. Upon entering, she finds our hero Subai lying in a recovery capsule. The girl is unsure if she should help because she fears he will want to use her power. Seeing our guy suffering, she wonders what she should do in that situation. She then remembers that he saved her without asking for anything in return, and now he is in bad shape. Our protagonist continues to pant and it looks like he is about to kick the bucket. Seeing the scene, the young woman wonders if she is really going to let him pass on like that. Scared, she turns away and apologizes, saying she doesn't have the courage to help because she was afraid he would become like the others if he discovered her power. With tears in her eyes, the girl is filled with remorse for her cowardly decision. The recovery capsule continues to glow as our hero fights for his life, but suddenly she turns around and says that this time she will be brave and use her power. With a green aura in her hands, she prepares to heal his wound. The girl then uses her healing power on the bandage to save our protagonist. With Lehigh yells healing, our hero Subai is finally able to rest in peace. After saving him, the girl turns and leaves the room quietly so as not to wake him. With a smile, she thanks him for everything and finally feels like a real part of the group. The bedroom door then closes and our protagonist continues to recover in the capsule. Suddenly our hero wakes up and wonders if he has finally recruited a healer. He then sits up and calls for Lehigh Yol, who helped him recover. With a smile, our protagonist thanks the young woman for saving his life. The scene then cuts to Stardust and Icicle drinking some cans on the balcony. Icicle says it's strange that his attacks always end without any victims. With an excited look, Stardust freaks out and Icicle remembers that he held the car. She then asks if her friend believes the theory that he is a dark hero. Stardust says it's not about believing, but that it no longer seems like a crazy theory. With a serious look, the heroine stares at the city and her friend says he continues to do evil. And even if no civilians get hurt, he is still crossing the line with his actions. That's why Icicle tells her friend to just treat him as that type of villain and that's it. But the heroine says she thinks Egostic is working on something much bigger. Her friend then changes the subject and asks if Haru has met any guys lately. Icicle gets annoyed and says her family was super strict about her personal life. Haru then finds the scene cute and Icicle asks what she meant by that. The scene then cuts to a building with a black limousine parked in front. Two security guards open the door and a guy enters the place that looks like a prison, and from inside emerges the S-rank villain Kim Son Woo, an advisor to the Hanan group. A guy in a lab coat greets him and asks about the current progress of the project. He then reveals that they are already 56% complete, but the old man freaks out and yells that it is too slow and that everything needs to be ready by winter. The guy in the lab coat is in shock with the new order and seems very worried about the deadline. The villain then gets into the limousine and tells the driver to get out of there as fast as possible. With an evil look, he swears that everyone will regret it when the plan is completed, because before winter ends, all of Korea will kneel before Dr. Kim Son Woo. The scene then cuts to a very luxurious mansion that seems to be our hero's base. On a news report, a story informs that Dr. Kim Son Woo was released at 7 in the morning. Seeing this, our hero Subai says that the players are entering the field for the showdown. 3 months later, winter arrived with a vengeance and covered our hero's base with a lot of snow. Lee Chae Hyun runs out super excited about the snow and Seowon tells him to come back. The boy continues to run in the snow towards the two young women who were sitting. Meanwhile, Subin enjoys a very warm drink to warm up from the cold. Ha-yul comments on how nice that quiet moment in the snow is. Suddenly our hero appears and complains that his partner ruined the fluffy snow. Seoin gets ticked off and says the snow was beautiful and untouched and declares war. With that, our protagonist gets all sweaty because the duo has teamed up to take him down. The two then start making snowballs, super excited for the big attack. But Subai cheats and uses his special power, Ego Blast, leaving the two ticked off. The boy surrenders immediately and Seoan is in shock at her partner's betrayal. With that, our hero prepares to attack Seoan, who was left alone in the fight. He then buries the girl in the snow and celebrates the victory with his new ally. After the fight, our hero gets some chocolate cookies to eat with the boy, and the two enjoy the snacks together after the great snowball fight that took place. Eating the cookie, our hero asks the boy to get more from his sister, but suddenly Seoan emerges from the snow and punches our protagonist hard. With the blow, he passes out, and the girl freaks out thinking she hit him too hard. Desperate, she shakes him and shouts his real name, calling him Dai. Lee Ha-yul then arrives with more cookies and sees our guy lying on the ground, but it was all an act, and he gets up with a smile, leaving the two ticked off. He then teases his partner for worrying and she turns all red with embarrassment. With it, the two start running through the snow and the game continues again. Our hero then thinks that in the last few months he hasn't needed to attack because Stardust was already strong. The only change was Ha-yul, who started to smile more and fit in with the crew. In addition, public opinion of him changed and everyone blamed him for the bridge because the people who took the money blamed him for manipulating them. But he doesn't care because being the villain was his goal, and now all that's left is to wait for the black disaster. The chase continues and Seoan finally manages to catch our hero. With that, she celebrates the victory while our protagonist is left breathless on the ground. The guy then points at Seoan, who is all grumpy for losing the fight. The two young women laugh at the scene and warn that they will get hurt if they continue like this. After the game, the group decides to go inside because hunger struck the crew hard, but far away in a laboratory, a red siren blares and chaos ensues. Suddenly, everything begins to crumble and the scientists run desperately for their lives. One of the doctors panics and doesn't understand where his grand plan went wrong. His assistant tries to get him out of there, but he refuses to abandon his life's research. With a look of terror, the doctor stares at what seems to be the cause of all the destruction, because a bizarre creature full of red eyes and mouths emerges from the shadows of the place. The behemoth prototype gains consciousness and and the doctor's plan went down the drain. The monstrosity then stares at the scientists ready to cause major damage, and the monster's target is the SG Tower, one of the largest buildings in the city of Seoul. Inside, an emergency alarm sounds and people begin to run in total desperation. With that, a large explosion happens and the situation becomes even more chaotic than before. But the heroine Stardust arrives with a bang and prepares to face the new threat. The president screams desperately and points to the window showing what is happening. The monster behemoth climbs a building and the president is shocked by the scene. The heroine Stardust is then left with her mouth open, not believing the size of the creature. With that, the monster charges forward with everything it has and begins to destroy the city without mercy. A guy tries to get out of his car but is completely paralyzed with fear by the situation. With the impact of the destruction, his car flips over and the man is thrown far away. His boss helps him up and yells for him to run because the car is a goner. The monster continues to advance and its tentacles destroy everything in its path. The creature then causes a large explosion and the destruction only increases in the city. A father protects his son in the middle of the chaos and is shocked by what he is seeing. The behemoth then continues its march of destruction without anyone stopping it. The heroine then announces that she is leaving immediately and the president tries to stop her, but she says she can't just stand by and tells him to eat popcorn while she fights. With that, the heroine gets a serious look and prepares for the great confrontation. Stardust then faces the monster and prepares to spring into action at any cost. In the midst of the chaos, the monster is swallowed by a whirlpool of water and debris. The heroine then gives an unfriendly look to the president of the association. The president then tells Stardust to submit a full report the next day. Far away, our hero eats some popcorn and watches everything as if it were a movie. And at the base, the whole crew celebrates and cheers for the heroine who is fighting the monster. At her house, the heroine Shenharu spends the night researching on the computer. The girl continues her online search to understand what people are saying. She then sees a forum where the crew defends Agostic and calls him a hero, because a post explains that without the destroyed bridge, no one would have stopped the monster. With a little smile, she finally understands how everything fit together in the end, because if our hero hadn't acted, there would have been no superhuman to stop the monster. With that, the girl goes out for a run and thinks that this whole situation can't be right. She then tries to convince herself that he is the villain and she is the heroine of the story, but with a determined look she swears that she will be the only one to protect everyone. Suddenly, a news report on TV reveals that the Hanan group caused the Black Disaster, and that Dr. Kim Son-woo and his team simply vanished from the map. Far away, our hero and his team are having dinner, and he says that this is how things end. Lee Ha-yul freaks out in anger and says those scumbags got what they deserved. The other girls agree and say they need to hunt down all the fugitives from the group, but Subai calms them down and says that soon they will crawl out on their own. Our hero then calls everyone to gather and the girls get very suspicious. He then opens a map and reveals the blueprint of the Hanian group's underground laboratory. The young women freak out and ask what is there, and our protagonist remains very calm. With a pen, he then circles section B9 on the map to show the target, and with an evil smile he says he found something totally insane inside. Because there was the Behemoth Project, an army of superhuman monsters, the Hainan group's ultimate weapon that can even block Shadow Walker's powers, and if the Black Disaster was just a prototype, the power of the original would be absurd. Our hero then gets confused seeing the girl's reaction to his grand plan, because the three of them are staring at him with a not-so-friendly look and seem very annoyed with him. Sion-a then freaks out and asks if he is going to fight an army of monsters, and even threatens him saying that 2 more holes in his stomach would look cool. Our guy gets scared and his partner yells that she also wants a power-up. With that, the girls begin to attack our hero, who is left completely clueless, but he defends himself and thinks that in the original story none of this happened, so it's all good. The scene then cuts to the giant building of the Korean Hero Association. Inside, an agent reveals that the monsters from the Hanan group are still alive. With that, the president of the association calls for the A-rank hero Shadow Walker. The hero then explains that he can't enter because his powers have been blocked, so the president turns to Stardust and asks if she is still going on the mission. With a determined look, the heroine agrees and the exploration is approved. The girl then throws herself with everything she has into the hole that leads to the underground laboratory. But suddenly our hero Subai appears, teleporting to the same location. At his base, his partners tease him and ask if he isn't scared. He then denies everything and says he would never be afraid of some little monsters. With a smile, the 2 girls wish him good luck and tell him to be careful. Our protagonist then introduces himself to the public because he is the Great Agostic. He starts a live stream and the chat blows up with people curious about what will happen. Our guy then reveals that the place is the basement of the Hanan group and he is going to explore it. Back at the association, the people are in shock to see see Stardust on the villain's live stream. The president of the association freaks out because he lost contact with Stardust in the basement. Angry, he punches the table and wonders who Agostic thinks he is to invade the place. But he tells his assistant to get some popcorn to watch the show that will unfold on the live stream. Meanwhile, our hero explores the laboratory and finds everything very creepy there. With a suspicious look, he continues his search in that very weird place. And on the live stream, he boasts that he is not afraid of mere abandoned experiments. Suddenly, a strange noise catches his attention and puts him on high alert. Our protagonist then freaks out with fear and summons his weapons to protect himself. Except the great threat was just a white kitten that appears out of nowhere. He then calms down and thinks it's just a cat, and he doesn't need to worry about anything, but our hero wonders why the heck there would be a cat in that abandoned place. In addition, the feline was wearing a very suspicious red ribbon around its neck. Suddenly, some strange red things begin to emerge from behind the cat. Then the creature's eyes glow red and it reveals itself to be a bizarre monster. Our guy is in shock to see the true form of that hideous creature. The creature then turns into a bizarre monster and charges straight at our hero. The creature opens its giant mouth and prepares to devour our guy at once. Our protagonist freaks out with fear and shoots with everything he has without even aiming properly. Far away, Stardust hears some noises and stops in the middle of the laboratory. With a serious look, the heroine realizes that the sound she heard was from a shootout being attacked. Our hero screams that he shouldn't have entered this place, with that he regrets not having listened to Seoan and should have stayed home training, because the creature continues its ferocious attack without giving him a second of respite. But our guy realizes that it's no use regretting and uses telekinesis to grab his weapons. Then with a new determination, he decides he will get the behemoth before leaving. With that, our hero starts running and shooting at the monster while fleeing up the stairs. He then uses the camera flash to try and blind the creature and buy some time. The monster charges forward and our guy yells for the creature to kick the bucket once and for all. He then fires his weapons with everything he has right in the creature's face in a point-blank attack. The creature takes the full impact and the attack causes a large explosion on its face. With the impact, the ceiling begins to collapse and our hero falls to the ground along with the rubble. In the midst of the chaos, a purple energy slash flies by and destroys part of the scenery. Our guy then flees and realizes he left his camera and gun behind in the confusion. He then tries to contact Seoan, but the communicator only makes static. Alone and without contact, our hero finally admits that he is getting a little scared. Suddenly, our hero hears a noise and is on high alert in the middle of the darkness. Then a golden explosion illuminates everything and Stardust appears with incredible power. The heroine feels a familiar presence and realizes she is not alone in that place. Our guy is in shock and wonders if the person in front of him is really Stardust. With her eyes glowing, the heroine stares at him and also recognizes him by the name of Agostic. He then asks what she is doing there and the young woman gets very annoyed by his audacity. She then says she is a heroine and that cleaning up messes is her job after all. Our guy gives a little smile and says her timing was simply perfect. With an evil smile, the heroine says this was an unexpected harvest for her. With an excited look, our guy faces her and she warns that if he stays quiet it won't hurt as much. The heroine then charges forward and launches a powerful attack in our guy's direction. Our protagonist gets scared and uses his powers to try and defend himself from the blow. With a brutal impact, the attack hits dead on and he tries to hold on as best he can, but the heroine continues her attack with everything she has and smiles during her show. Being pressured by the heroine's power, our guy screams with his hand in front of his face. The protagonist really doesn't want to fight now and is annoyed by this fight. He then begs for her to stop and Stardust interrupts her attack immediately. Our hero then says he knows has a villain but doesn't know what to do now. He then points to the place and suggests an alliance until they reach the deeper levels. But the heroine asks why he is there and our guy says it's curiosity, because he explains that the guys who created the Black Disaster might have more plans. With a smile, the heroine agrees to the alliance and tells him to follow her. The young woman says she was in trouble and he can help, leaving our guy flustered. Our hero is confused because he didn't expect her to accept his proposal. As for the heroine, she thinks it's better to keep him close to discover his secrets. With the alliance formed, Stardust begins to search for some files in the location, but our curious guy sneaks over to try and peek at what she is doing, but he ends up getting caught in the act and gets the biggest scare of his life. The heroine then freaks out and yells for him to get out of there because the file is confidential. With that, our hero runs off, all scared from the scolding he received from the young woman. Our hero then watches Stardust from a distance, seeming very thoughtful at the moment. With a smile, he thinks that being with her like that is very nice. Our protagonist then gets all flushed and says he simply loves this situation situation. As they walk, he notices that she moves with ease and wonders if it is her sixth sense. Suddenly, the heroine stops in front of a door with a very suspicious sign. With that, the heroine calls him by his name, and he gets all flustered by her proximity. She then tells him to enter the room, and our hero is surprised by the unexpected order. Our guy then says he should enter because the heroine is treating him like a guinea pig. With a suspicious look, our hero enters the dark room very carefully. Without a second thought, the heroine pushes him with all her might into the room and closes the door. Trapped inside, our protagonist realizes that his hat ended up falling on the floor. He then tries to use his powers but realizes that telekinesis and teleportation don't work. With the room in complete silence, our hero stands still, not knowing what to do now. He then turns to Stardust and asks if the powers really don't work there. Our guy gets curious and wonders what the principle behind that room is. Suddenly, the heroine breaks the wall with a punch and our hero is shocked. With the wall broken, the heroine remains silent, seeming very thoughtful. She then turns and says she was just testing to see if the room really suppressed powers. Our guy then freaks out because she could have flooded everything with her brute force. Suddenly, a red emergency light begins to flash nonstop in the location. With that, the two get desperate because the room door simply locked itself. Trapped in the room, our hero and the heroine stare at each other in silence, not knowing what to do. Our protagonist then grumbles and realizes that the situation is really dangerous. The heroine then gets serious and says they are trapped in a sealed space without powers. With that, our guy realizes that a hero and a villain have been confined together. Trapped in the room, Stardust tries to break down the door, but our hero says it's useless. He then points to a clock that shows almost 3 hours until they can get out. Our guy says the door only opens in 3 hours and for her not to waste her energy for nothing. Hearing this, the heroine is exhausted and doesn't know what to do in that situation. Suddenly, Stardust clenches her fist with brutal force. With a serious look, our hero observes her hand in silence for a moment. He then sits down and tells her not to be foolish since she can't even use her powers there. But the heroine gets into a fighting stance and faces the wall, determined to get out of that place. Seeing the scene, our guy gets up and extends his hand to the young woman with a smile. The heroine is completely surprised and blushing at our protagonist's gesture. He then holds her hand and sees that it is all injured from trying to punch the door. With that, the young woman stares at him with a surprised look, and without knowing what to say to him, the girl says she won't thank him, but he jokes that it sounded like a thank you. She then yanks her hand away with all her might, and he warns her to be careful with the injury. Our hero then gives a sigh and adjusts his top hat, seeming very tired. With that, our hero announces that he is going to take a nap, and the heroine gets ticked off by his attitude. He then says there is nothing to do for 3 hours and that she should sleep too. The heroine gets an unfriendly look and clenches her fists in anger at the situation. An hour later, our guy pretends to be asleep, but in reality he is super tense because he thinks he can't let his guard down for a second with her around. After all, Stardust is stronger than most guys even without her superpowers. The two then remain silent and a very strange atmosphere takes over the dark room. 2 hours later, our hero feels that the oxygen is running out and that he is very tired. He then notices that Stardust seems to be having trouble breathing and calls her name. The heroine then stares at him and our guy is confused about what she is thinking. With a weak voice, she asks if he was the one who stopped the car on the bridge that day. Our protagonist is completely in shock because he didn't expect her to find out. He then remembers the moment he saved her on the bridge using his powers secretly. The heroine insists and asks again if he was the one who stopped the car to save them, but our hero dodges the question and makes a joke saying he is a villain who doesn't stop. With a serious look, the heroine asks why he told her to save the plane. Upon hearing this, our protagonist freaks out inside, not knowing what to answer her. He then says he is the villain and she is the heroine, and that her existence completes him. Our guy asks if it's weird and the heroine just stares at him in silence. The two then sit on the floor and the emergency light continues to flash. Awkwardly, he thinks he overreacted because of the lack of oxygen. The heroine then questions if he was the one who deliberately brought down the sealed bridge and asks if he knew about the existence of the monster and that the creature was going to the bridge. Our hero gives a little smile and says she is falling for internet theories. He also tries to play it off, saying it was just a very weird coincidence, but the heroine stares at him with a furious look and doesn't seem to believe the excuse. Our guy then panics and wonders if he missed something. The young woman then remembers the bridge, the plane, and the monster from the Black Disaster. She then says it's not a theory and that she is beginning to doubt that he is a villain. Our hero realizes that is her hero intuition and that explaining would only make things worse. Our hero then confirms that he knew about the monster and deliberately brought down the bridge. The heroine stares at him with a serious serious look and calls that Egostic's secret technique. With a serious look, the heroine prepares to question our protagonist. He then uses the "so what" tactic, and the heroine calls him childish for it. She then questions how he found out about the monster, and he says it was by hacking. With an evil smile, he says he hacked the Bank of Korea and got the information, but the heroine stares at him with a serious look and says there is still something strange. She then questions why he is avoiding harming civilians if he is a villain. Our guy freaks out and says he just doesn't want anyone to steal his spotlight. With a crazy look, he says he doesn't care if civilians live or die. The heroine then falls silent, seeming very thoughtful with his answer. Our hero yells for her to understand, but his voice fades and he realizes things have gone south. Suddenly the heroine stands up and gets face to face with our protagonist. Our guy then shrinks back in fear of what she might do to him there. And with a serious look, the heroine stares at our hero without saying a single word. She remains firm with her angry expression towards Egostic. Our hero then swallows hard, unsure of what to expect from her reaction. With a furious look, the heroine faces our protagonist, ready for anything. Our hero then swallows hard, unsure of what to expect from her reaction, but the heroine tells him to get out of the way, and our guy is confused by her attitude. Suddenly the clock in the room hits 0 and a loud alarm starts to ring. The door then opens and the heroine takes the opportunity to leave the room as quickly as possible, but the young woman ends up collapsing on the floor, completely exhausted and with no energy left. She seems to have recovered in an instant and calls for her enemy to get out of there. Our hero agrees and the two leave the room with our guy using his teleportation. The two then walk through a dark and destroyed corridor of the underground laboratory. Our protagonist then stops in front of a computer and analyzes the information. He sees the date of the creature that attacked him and realizes it has evolved teleportation. The heroine watches him in silence, seeming very thoughtful about the new discovery. Then they arrive in a giant room with a completely shattered containment tank. Our hero explains that this was the prototype of the black disaster that escaped. With that, he says there's nothing more to see there, but suddenly notices something. Our hero then suggests they take another path, but the heroine doesn't even care. She then heads in another direction and leaves our guy behind, looking dumbfounded. With that, they arrive in a room and come face to face with the behemoth creature in a tank. The heroine then approaches a computer to analyze the monster's information, but suddenly she turns her back and our hero freaks out because she left him alone. He then thinks that his alliance was to prove that he is a real villain. With an evil smile, our protagonist decides that words are no longer enough. The heroine turns around surprised and he says he will show her what a villain is. Then a dark energy explodes from our hero with an absurd and frightening power. The young woman asks what he is doing and our guy asks what it looks like. With a smile, he confirms that it is a betrayal and prepares for the big show. Upon hearing this, the heroine becomes completely furious and clenches her fists with great anger. Our hero then remembers that in the original story, Dr. Kim used the behemoth against her, and with that he prepares to take the doctor's place and become the great villain. Stardust then charges forward with everything she has and swears she will finish him once and for all. With his fist glowing red, our hero prepares for the final confrontation. Then the two powers collide with full force and a great wave of energy spreads. The impact of the collision is so strong that it shakes the entire structure of the laboratory. But the heroine is in shock to see that his attack simply passed through her. With an evil smile, our protagonist reveals that it was all part of his plan. The girl then attacks again, but he teleports and the fight continues with full force. The exchange of blows causes a giant explosion of purple and golden energy in the location. Through gritted teeth, the heroine charges forward once more to try and catch him. Our hero then moves away and floats in the air with a very sinister power aura. He then taunts her and asks if she is going to blow up everything there with her strength. The heroine gets furious and yells for him to fight fair and stop running away. With a cry of rage, the young woman charges at our protagonist with everything she has. The two then collide once more in an even greater explosion of power. Our guy then says that this is what being a villain is all about, and that she shouldn't turn her back. Upon hearing this, Stardust gets even more ticked off, and the behemoth monster reacts. The behemoth attacks, and our hero can't find an opening to teleport with Stardust, so the creature takes the chance and launches a deadly attack from behind the heroine. The blow is very fast, and the girl realizes it was too late to dodge, but our protagonist moves and gets in front of her to protect her from the attack. He then pushes her with all his might and takes the hit in her place, leaving the young woman in shock. Our hero's hand glows with a red energy as he holds back the monster's attack. With the impact, our guy is thrown far away and Stardust screams his name. The heroine is completely confused, not understanding why he saved her like that, and with that a large pool of blood spreads across the laboratory floor. Even all broken, our protagonist turns to Stardust with a smile. He then says that she is the light, and a purple energy envelopes them for the teleportation. teleportation. Far away at the base, Seo-eun is completely in shock with what she is seeing. The other girls are also terrified by the scene that unfolded in the laboratory. One of them runs desperately along with Lee Hae-yeol. Our hero Subai reappears at the base all broken and bleeding on the floor. The wound on our hero's chest is very bad and he continues to lose a lot of blood. With that, Soo Bin panics and calls him Big Brother desperately. Our guy then thinks he's gonna kick the bucket with so much blood loss. But suddenly Lee Hae-yeol appears and tells his partner to get out of the way. Meanwhile, Seo-eun continues to cry, not knowing what to do in that situation. Then the young woman uses her power and a green healing light begins to shine in her hands. With a determined look, she concentrates all her power to heal his wound, and a large explosion of green light illuminates the entire base as she saves him. Far away, Stardust thinks that he lost too much blood and won't survive. With a flushed face, she wonders why he saved her and whispers Egostic's name. After recovering, Lee Soo Bin decides to take care of our hero and tries to feed him, but Subai is all tied up and begs her to let him eat alone to maintain his dignity. With no choice, our guy ends up giving in, and the young woman celebrates that he ate properly. Sometime later, Lee Hae-yeol says goodbye and thanks him for having hidden her power from everyone. With tears in her eyes, the girl also thanks him for finally being able to go back to school. Our hero then gives a smile and says he's just grateful and wishes her a good first day of school. With that, the whole team says goodbye to the siblings who are going to school like a happy family. But Seo-eun gets ticked off and swears that if he leaves again, she will finish him for good. Suddenly, his partner finds a strange object and says it's very heavy. Our hero says it's for acupressure and the girl asks to see how it works. With a red glow, he crushes the object and throws his partner far away with the power. He then reveals that it is the behemoth's core and prepares to awaken it. The girls watch everything from a distance and are in shock with what is happening. With that, the shackles break and our hero shows that he is free for the next act. And a dark energy envelopes the girls, showing that the behemoth's power has been released. With the behemoth's power, our hero ties up the two girls who scream for mercy. They beg him to stop, but the scene then cuts to a full moon night. Far away in her room, the heroine Stardust is sleeping peacefully in her bed, but in her dream she relives the moment when our protagonist saved her from the monster. With that, the girl wakes up completely in a panic and scared by the nightmare she had. Sitting on the bed, the young woman becomes thoughtful with the memory of that day in the laboratory. With her knees hugged, the heroine seems very shaken by everything that happened. She then whispers Egostic's name and wonders if he will be okay in the end. A month passes and the story moves forward to an ordinary day at Seoul University. In a classroom, we see Shen Haru very thoughtful, and with her gaze lost out the window. Her friend then approaches and asks why she has been so distracted lately, but her friend is not satisfied with the answer and insists that she tell her what is going on. With a serious look, the heroine seems to think about how she will explain her great doubt. She then asks what it would mean if a villain ended up saving a real hero. Her friend doesn't understand the question, but Haru seems very serious about her doubt. Haru then plays it off and says she was thinking about a book she read lately. Her friend gets excited and says she is also addicted to a very similar story. With that, she shows Haru her phone with a very suspicious illustration. The image shows the forbidden love between the villain Egostic and the heroine Stardust. Lying on the table, Haru wonders if he is okay and if he hasn't passed on, but she thinks that a guy who played with all of Korea is definitely alive. With a determined look, the heroine wonders when his next attack will be. Meanwhile, at the base, our hero peels an apple and says there won't be an attack for a while. Suddenly, Seo-eun appears super excited with some news to share. Subai then says he's going to take a vacation before the next big attack. His partner freaks out and suggests he give up for good, but he says he can't. Seo-eun is confused and our hero explains that there is someone else to take his place. He then says he can't stay in the spotlight forever and that he's the strongest on the team, and reminds them that Stardust defeated the behemoth easily, so they need help. With that, our protagonist promises that he will prepare a new member for Stardust. The scene then cuts to a coffee shop where a young woman with orange hair welcomes them. Suddenly, a fan appears and declares his love for her with a bouquet of white flowers. Our hero watches the scene and thinks that this also happened in the original story, but the young woman freaks out and tells the guy to get lost because it's not time for nonsense at work. Scared, the fan runs off and our guy finds the live scene very entertaining. And this is Choi Si-hee, 23 years old, who seems very stressed out about everything. Our protagonist then watches her while taking a sip of coffee at the counter. Suddenly, the girl feels confused and wonders if she fell asleep again. Our hero then reveals that in the future she becomes the A-rank villain Elektra, but for now she is just an ordinary citizen who fights against her destructive impulses. Our guide describes her as a ticking time bomb and leaves a gift for her. At night, the young woman walks alone and complains that she needs to work non-stop to live. In a dark alley, the girl hides and wonders if anyone is around. She then unleashes her powers and a bluish energy begins to shine in her hands. With a serious look, the young woman unleashes all her electrical power to relieve the tension. With her electrical powers, the girl creates a a sphere of blue energy in her hands. Next she watches her power manifesting in all its glory. With a smile on her face, the young woman seems very happy to use her powers freely, but suddenly she realizes that someone is watching her and becomes on high alert. From the shadows, our hero Agostic then emerges and calls her by the name of Choi Si-hee. The girl then freaks out and calls him crazy for inviting her to a terrorist attack. With a furious look, our hero prepares the behemoth's core to test her strength. The young woman then freaks out and calls him crazy for inviting her to a terrorist attack. With a furious look, our hero prepares the behemoth's core to test her strength. Without hesitation, the girl concentrates all her electrical power for the big attack. She then fires a blast of blue energy with all her might at our guy. The electrical attack causes a giant explosion and illuminates the entire dark alley, but our hero lets out a maniacal laugh and asks if that's all she's got. With a smile, the young woman feels a sense of liberation and curses him with all her might. Our guy then says the offer is valid until next week and tells her to think about it. With that, he teleports and the girl tries to stop him, screaming desperately, but it was too late and our hero vanishes, leaving the young woman behind alone. Still with energy in her hands, the girl observes her power with a thoughtful look. With a little smile, she says that the feeling of using her powers was very good. Back at the base, our hero freaks out and wonders how that could have happened, because Lee Soo-bin says it's the end for him and apologizes with a sad look. Our guy then yells and questions how she could do this after everything. With an evil smile, Sioana says goodbye and bids the girl farewell, but in reality it was just a flashback of the crew playing a board game. It seems our guy went bankrupt and Sioana teases that is pretty pathetic. As punishment, she tells him to wash 3 days worth of dishes for a family of 5. He then feels defeated, but she reminds him that it's been 3 days since he talked about recruiting. With a serious look, the girl questions if he's just going to fool around, but with a smile he says that the bait he prepared must have been taken by now. The scene then cuts to a coffee shop where a young woman seems very stressed at work. Tired, she ends up spilling the coffee and her manager doesn't seem to like it at all. Her colleague then suggests she take a break and the young woman thanks her for the concern. With that, the girl goes out to rest and get some fresh air outside. Sitting on a rooftop, she scrolls through her phone, seeming very anxious about something, and in the news she sees Agostic's popularity and is very surprised by it. The young woman then discovers that his attacks never leave any victims in the end. With that, she wonders if he's a good guy and unleashes her electrical powers with all her might. It turns out her parents hated superhumans and forbade her from using her powers. That's why all the accumulated stress turned her into a ticking time bomb about to explode. But our hero gave her a week to think about the proposal he made. The days passed and the girl remained very stressed about the situation. While working, she put on a forced smile, but inside her anxiety only grew until the 7th and final day finally arrived and she went into a total panic. So that same night, the young woman went to the dark alley to meet our hero. She walked with a determined look and ready for what was to come. Arriving at the meeting spot, she calls out Agostic's name, all excited, but the one who answers her call is a cat that gets scared by her presence. The feline then runs off and even kicks her in the shin before bouncing. With that, the girl gets sad and whispers his name, thinking she got stood up. Suddenly, our hero appears and asks if she thought about the proposal he made. With a determined look, the young woman turns her face and says she will accept the invitation. Our guy is surprised, but she yells that she will do it, and he celebrates the decision. The young woman then freaks out and says she accepts the terrorist attack but just wants to break things. With that, our hero grabs her and the two vanish in a flash of purple energy. They then reappear in front of the main house that serves as the group's base. Inside, our guy asks everyone to introduce themselves to the new member. He then introduces her as the new family member Choi Si. He who gets flustered. Lee Soo-bin and Lee Yul greet her with a very friendly smile, but Seo-an grumbles that it's just another girl and doesn't seem very excited. Our protagonist then takes off his mask and prepares to reveal his identity. With a smile, he introduces himself as Kim-da-in, and the young woman is in shock because she remembers that she has seen him before when he went to the coffee shop where she works. The girl then freaks out and points at him, yelling that he is the handsome guy from last week. Our hero gets embarrassed and the other girls watch the scene in silence. With the shock, the young woman's electrical powers go out of control and he tells her to calm down, but it was too late and her energy discharge causes a blackout in the entire house. The girls feel a chill and think her power is incredible, while Subai yells in the dark. In total darkness, the whole crew is in shock with the blackout that happened. Choi Si, he then covers her face, dying of embarrassment for the mess she made. Suddenly, little Lee Chae-hyun appears with a flashlight and asks what is going on. He then complains that he needs to do his homework and tells them to turn the lights back on. Sometime later, the house lights finally return to normal with the power restored. Far away, the heroine Stardust continues her investigation in the Agostic fan club, and she even ranks up on the site, which makes her even more irritated with the situation. With that, the young woman bangs her head on the table with so much anger for being addicted to that site. A notification even praises her for being an excellent member, which only makes things worse. After so much research, the heroine ends up passing out from exhaustion on top of her bed. Even while sleeping, she clenches her fist and wonders if our hero is okay after everything, because she remembers that the villain said that now she owed him one. Upon waking up, the girl whispers Agostic's name and becomes very thoughtful in bed. Suddenly, the bedroom door opens with a click, revealing what was to come. Inside, Choi Si-hee apologizes for causing the blackout, but our hero says it was good because he was bored. With the protagonist approaches Choi Si-hee and touches her shoulder to get her attention. He then invites her to go somewhere with him, leaving the girl very surprised by his gesture. Shortly after, they go to the garden of the large mansion that serves as the group's base. The young woman stares at him with a suspicious expression, not understanding why they were there alone. Kim Dae-in opens his arms and says that no one is around, and the girl questions him about the reason for that. With a smile, he encourages her to use all her power without holding back because that was what she wanted. Upon hearing this, the young woman's expression changes, and she seems finally decided to release everything she had kept inside and questions if he avoids things on his own and calls him by the name of Agostic. Our hero then uses his ability, and her lightning attack ends up not hitting him. She was exuding energy ready to finish off our protagonist, and a sphere of energy forms around her. With a smile, he is impressed and says that her power is truly incredible as expected. After all that attack is released, a crater is left around her, and Choi Si-hee falls to her knees exhausted but feeling a huge sense of relief. Our protagonist then approaches her with a drink and asks if she is satisfied with the result. The orange-haired girl, still suspicious, questions if his attacks hurt people, and he says he is a pacifist. She finds his answer a big joke but accepts the drink and asks how old he is. Kim Dae-in thinks for a moment and replies that he is 22 but quickly corrects himself, saying that he is actually 23. Choi Si-hee gets ticked off to learn that they are the same age and complains that he speaks so formally. With a smile, the young woman extends her hand and tells him to stop with the formality once and for all. Our hero then agrees and shakes her hand, sealing the new alliance between the two. With the deal sealed, he officially welcomes her to the Ego Squad with a smile. The new member is confused and questions our guy's terrible taste and team names. Sometime later, our protagonist begins Choi Si-hee's training in the base's garden. The young woman then concentrates all her electricity in her legs and makes a huge jump, but the power comes out a bit uncontrolled and she ends up falling hard. Seo-an wakes up with the noise and complains about the two of them making a mess so early in the morning. In the base's garden, the special training continues, and our protagonist announces that Choi Si-hee will fight against Stardust in the next attack. Kim Dae-in then tries to explain a technique but gets all mixed up and becomes thoughtful, trying to remember how it was. The idea is for the girl to concentrate all her electricity in her legs to create a powerful impulse. Our hero finally remembers and explains that she needs to wrap her feet with electricity and fire downwards. Choi Si-hee remains confused and doesn't quite understand how to make that work. Even without fully understanding, she tries and manages to make the electricity flow through her legs and feet. After the training, Seo-an appears with a bottle of water and offers it to her new teammate. The young woman drinks the water, very tired after having spent a lot of energy in training. Our guy stares at her in silence and she asks why he is staring at her so much. He then teases her and tells her to go take a shower because she smells like sweat. With that, Choi Si-hee gets ticked off and throws the water bottle with all her might in his face. Kim Dae-in doesn't like the attitude and activates his behemoth power, ready to retaliate. The young woman doesn't back down and also releases her electricity, preparing for the fight. Seeing that things have gotten serious, our hero asks for help from Seo-an, who is just watching from a distance. A month later, in a dark room, someone is playing video games, while a voice suggests they try talking to a girl. The whole crew was together playing video games, and the shouting starts with our hero and his partner. The two are in shock with Choi Si-hee's move, who doesn't seem to know much about the game. With that, our guy freaks out and tells her to drop the controller, while Seo-an tells him to turn on the light. Sometime later, Lee Soo-bin observes the three on the floor planning the next day's terrorist attack. The young woman then gets worried because they pulled an all-nighter and the big event was already today. The group's newcomer seems very focused on the plan and Lee Soo-bin praises everyone's effort. But suddenly Choi Si-hee and Seo-an start fighting over a game and our hero sighs. With a cute smile, Lee Soo-bin suggests that instead they should all go to bed now. Upon hearing this, the trio panics and runs to their rooms, afraid of the scolding they are about to get. Our guy also tries to bail, but Lee Soo-bin holds him back and tells him to stay for the lecture. Seeing the scene, the other girls comment on how scary Soo-bin is when she gets angry. Far away, an emergency alert informs that a terrorist attack has occurred in the city of Seoul. With that, the heroine Stardust flies at high speed to the attack site to resolve the situation. Arriving there, she comes face to face with Choi Si-hee in her villain costume and calls for Agostic. But the orange-haired young woman introduces herself as the new villain Elektra and greets the heroine Heroine. The heroine Stardust stares at the new villain with a serious expression, unimpressed by the newcomer. With a firm look, the girl tells the villain to stop the terrorist attack and surrender at once, but Elektra refuses to obey and unleashes a wave of electricity with all her might at the heroine, and says she was there to face Stardust. The heroine is very surprised by the newcomer's attitude and stares at her, not understanding the situation. The scene then flashes back to a week earlier with Choi, he questioning why they were still training. With a smile, our hero says he forgot to teach her the final move, the lightning punch technique. The young woman doesn't like the name and complains about his terrible taste, but Kim Dae-in thinks she was the one who named it. He then explains that she needs to wrap her hand with electricity instead of just shooting it randomly. The young woman concentrates and tries to focus all her energy in her fist, but it seems very difficult. With a cry of effort, she finally manages to condense the electrical power in her hand. Then with a single punch to the ground, she unleashes an explosion of energy that destroys everything around. Our protagonist celebrates the success of the move, and the young woman is in shock with the power she unleashed. With that, he tells her to practice only that move during week remaining until the attack. Kim Dae-in then encourages her to land a good hit on Stardust, and the young woman calls him crazy for being so mean to the heroine. Our hero then strikes a pose and says he is a villain with a tragic story, but Choi he calls him an idiot. Back in the present, Elektra taunts Stardust and asks if that is all an A-rank heroine can do. The heroine then dodges all the electrical attacks with incredible speed, showing her agility. With that, Stardust continues to fly through the city, and our protagonist finds the scene very cool to watch. Far away, Agostic watches everything with binoculars and eats popcorn as if he were in a movie theater. The heroine is then hit by one of the lightning bolts and feels the pain of the electrical attack in her body, but she holds on and charges forward, surprising our guy who is watching the fight. Elektra then realizes that the heroine is resisting and prepares for a stronger attack. With a smile, she unleashes a giant electrical discharge that causes several explosions throughout the city. Stardust is caught in the middle of the explosion and struggles to stay on her feet with the force of the attack. The villain then gives a little smile and thinks the fight is being much easier than she expected. Even with the lightning everywhere, the heroine manages to hold her ground and doesn't yield to the attack. With that, Stardust concentrates her energy and creates a golden aura to protect herself from the electricity. Elektra is in shock to realize the immense power that the heroine is about to unleash. The villain then panics upon seeing Stardust preparing for the counterattack with everything she has. With a nervous smile, Elektra realizes that the heroine in front of her is much stronger than she imagined, and a tense atmosphere hangs in the air. Choi he gets worried seeing that the heroine is a true monster and wonders how Agostic managed to face someone so powerful for so long. Even surrounded by lightning, the heroine Stardust seems to adapt quickly to Elektra's attacks. From a distance, our protagonist watches everything and thinks that the reason he trained Choi he so much was precisely to increase the durability and resistance of his beloved Stardust. He also reflects that compared to what the heroine suffered in the original story, this wasn't even the beginning. Stardust then offers Elektra a chance to surrender and promises not to hurt her if she cooperates, but the newcomer freaks out and tells the heroine to take a hike, and Stardust warns that she asked for it. Stardust then charges forward with everything she has, but Elektra is not intimidated and prepares her lightning punch to counterattack with everything she has. The collision of the two powers causes a giant explosion that destroys the ground and throws the newcomer far away. Our protagonist quickly uses his power and teleports far away to avoid being hit. Now that he is in a safe location, Agostic creates a holographic screen and prepares for another one of his live broadcasts and starts filming the heroine. The girl seems very thoughtful with all the smoke and debris that are around her. The heroine's power was so great that it destroyed everything around. Stardust then asks who she was referring to with during the fight and realizes that the newcomer was just following someone else's orders, but the orange-haired young woman refuses to give up her boss and tells the heroine to take a hike. The blonde girl then says she will get the information out of her one way or another and approaches, but before she can do anything, our protagonist appears and teleports her far away. Stardust is in shock to recognize the attack and hears Agostic's voice greeting her. She then turns around and spots our protagonist floating right in front of her. With a smile on his face, he says it's been a while since they last saw each other. In the live broadcast chat, the people go wild upon seeing our hero holding Elektra in his arms. Seeing the scene, the heroine Stardust is completely in shock and asks if he was really alive. Our protagonist confirms and even jokes that the news must not be good for her, but the girl says it's a relief and our hero is confused, not understanding her reaction. He then teases her saying he didn't know Stardust was worried, and the young woman gets all flushed. Carrying Elektra, our guy complains about the delay and says he was watching the fight until the end. The reflection in the heroine's eyes shows the villain with with his new partner and leaves her very shaken. Our protagonist then notices the young woman's strange reaction and is left confused about the reason. Scared, Elektra points to the heroine and asks why she is acting that way. Our hero then comments that Stardust looks like she's going to finish them both off right there. The heroine's face turns red with anger and she wonders if this is the fury of a heroine. With that, Stardust yells and questions why the heck he appeared in the middle of her fight. With a smile, our guy says he came there to rescue his new teammate. The heroine is even more confused and repeats the word teammate, not believing what she heard. Our protagonist then prepares to make a grand presentation for Stardust. With a hologram, our hero presents his new team to the hero in the ego stream. The big screen shows the silhouette of all the members and reveals itself as a new alliance of villains. The heroine Stardust is completely in shock to learn that he is no longer acting alone. Our protagonist then confirms and warns that there are other members as strong as Elektra, and that from now on he will no longer carry out terrorist attacks alone as before. With that, he tells Stardust and all of Korea to be on guard because things are about to get real. Our hero then calls her Alechu and tells her to release the thunder shock, and Stardust retreats, dodging the attack. Our guy then teleports and warns that the heroine is still far from being able to catch him. Angry, Stardust yells for him to wait, but the villain simply ignores her and vanishes. The heroine then punches the wall and realizes she has never felt that before and is confused by the disgusting feeling. She remembers how our protagonist and Elektra were together and complains about his jokes. With a furious look, the heroine swears that next time she will finish him once and for all. Far away in a dark alley, our protagonist wonders if this is the right place. Our protagonist yells, and with a punch he prepares to reveal a secret passage. From there, the brick wall breaks and a mysterious entrance appears right in front of him. With that, the protagonist enters the place and confirms that he has finally found the right place. Inside, he finds himself in an ancient hallway lit by candles with green and very suspicious flames. Moving forward, our guy finds a giant obsidian door at the end of the hallway. He then opens the door and enters a room full of plants, while someone greets him, and this is Vine Witch, a young woman with green hair, who asks what a stranger is doing there. Faced with the situation, our hero asks her to place his sealing spell on his belongings. He then shows a chest and two diaries, one that records the past and another that will record the future. The witch picks up a small red stone and compliments the object, saying it is very beautiful. She then questions him until when the seal should last, and our hero replies that it is until the day he passes on. With her eyes closed, the green-haired young woman prepares to begin the great ritual. Next, a green energy takes over the room, and several plants begin to grow everywhere. The witch then uses all her power and casts the sealing spell on our hero's diaries. With that, a green magic seal forms, and she warns that only the owner can open the chest from now on. Before leaving, Vine Witch watches our protagonist leaving in silence. The green-haired young woman then warns him that he has chosen a very difficult path to tread. With a smile, our hero says it is a path that someone has to take anyway. Back in the city, our guy teleports to the top of a building with an incredible sunset. From up there, he reflects that this was the moment he decided his purpose in life in this world. With a hologram of Stardust, he thinks that incredible things are going to happen from now on. Our protagonist then stretches and prepares for what is to come in the next few days. And determined, he says that the heroine just needs to trust him because he will make everything work out. But suddenly, Seoan calls and scolds him for not having returned for dinner yet. Our hero then answers the call and says he is on his way, but she tells him to hurry up. With the sun setting on the horizon, our protagonist stares at the city with a serious look because the final event of the first phase of his plan is about to begin. Far away, a truck travels peacefully down a road while the driver sings a song. At the Hanan Group's secret base, the scientists seem very anxious as the time has finally come. Suddenly, the road cracks and something giant seems about to emerge from there. With a brutal impact, a gile pierces the asphalt and a giant robot begins to emerge. The giant mecha stands up and the truck driver goes into a total panic at the scene. With an evil smile, the villain Kim Son-woo announces that it's time to destroy Korea. The robot then begins to march towards the city, ready to cause the greatest damage of all.